right, we will now convene the Selma City Council regular meeting, March 18th, 2019, at 6:01 p.m. Our invocation will be led by Pastor Joe Alvarez of the Iglesia Antioquia. Pastor? That was mumbled for a reason.
Praise the Lord. God bless each one of you. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, we just thank you right now, Heavenly Father, for this opportunity to come before you and put everything at your hands, Heavenly Father, and asking you for wisdom for all the works that we do is to glorify you. In the name of Jesus Christ, we all say, Amen. Amen. God bless you. Iglesia Antioquia, Santo.
Everybody, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance flag. Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Avalos?
Here.
Councilmember Guerra?
Here.
Councilmember Trujillo?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Franco?
Here.
Mayor Robertson?
Here. Potential conflicts of interest. Any council member has a potential conflict of interest may announce the item now and recuse themselves from discussing or voting on the matter. Oral communications. At this time, any of the members of the public may come up and address the city council regarding any item on the agenda, but not on the agenda, but over which the council has jurisdiction. No action or discussion may take place on any of the items. However, items of particular interest may be referred to the city manager for further review. Folks who come up and speak will be asked to limit their remarks to 3 minutes. Anybody for oral communications tonight? Okay, with that, we'll move on to special presentations. Our first special presentation is a certificate of recognition for Magali Perez, presented by Councilperson Guerra. Sarah, do you want the mic?
Okay, Magali, can I ask you to come up, please? Parents? Okay. One of the best things about being a council member is being able to recognize the achievements of our fellow citizens. I congratulate Magali Perez. On behalf of the entire city council, we would like to recognize her for her excellence in boxing. We have a certificate for her tonight, and it reads, City of Selma, Certificate of Recognition, Magali Perez. We recognize you for your hard work and efforts in becoming the National Silver Glove Champion. Girls 13-14, 114 weight division. The community is proud of you and your excellence and accomplishments. Presented this 18th day of March, 2019 by Mayor Scott Robertson, Mayor Pro Tem Louis Franco, Council members Jim Avalos, Sarah Guerra, and John Trujillo. Magali, would you like to say something?
Hi, good afternoon. I want to say I'm really proud to be representing Selma and having, you guys support me in this, and just thank you. And I want to thank you for having me here and representing me. So
Daniel, who do you have here tonight?
Well, with us here is I'm Daniel Perez, Magali's father and trainer. Her other trainer is David Davis from Front Street Boxing here in Selma. My wife is here with us as well, Jesusita Perez. And again, we are glad to and honored to represent Selma. She's going to be going on Saturday. We're going to Reno, and she's going to be fighting in the Western Regionals the Western qualifying tournament. That's where the kids that are actually 16 and older get to participate, and if they win there, they qualify to go to a tournament to go to the Olympics. So Magali's goal, we won't say a dream, we'll say a goal, because that's what she wants to do, is go to 2024 Olympics in France. So we currently have a GoFundMe page for her to help with the expenses to go to the Reno tournament. She will be fighting. Most likely, there's going to be the #1 ranked in the nation and the #3 ranked in the nation. She beat the #3 ranked in the nation to get this belt. So we're confident that she's going to go represent Selma well and hopefully come back with another belt.
Oh, wonderful. Magali, I would like you to come by the office so that I can make a donation for you. Okay? Thank you.
And are these kids from the, you want to do a picture? Should we all stand up?
Yeah, please. One, two, three, cheese. Thank you.
Is your, are these folks from the gym?
Yes,
Who
I'm
also-
sorry. We also have her peers that are training at the Front Street Boxing here to show support for Magali as well. Thank you guys for coming.
Okay, with that, we will. You know, a number of us, all of us, were at the Latino Water Coalition on Thursday, and Jose Ramirez was there. And, you know, he combines this quiet confidence with just this lethal, don't mess with me look. You know, he's just a, but overall, he was a really humble person, and he talked about his roots and working hard and overcoming a lot of difficulties and having, you know, his faith in God to get him where he currently is as the champion boxer that he is. So, you know, we look forward. No pressure on you, Magali, but I see the same determination in your eyes, and we look forward to seeing you in the Olympics. Way to go! Congratulations. With that, we'll move on to the Measure S oversight presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Robertson and council. The Measure S Oversight Committee at their meeting on February 27th, 2019 determined that the city had met and exceeded by $841,235 the general fund obligations, and that the Measure S funding had been expended in an appropriate manner for the fiscal year 2017-18. The committee also approved a reserve balance of $741,011.
And you are the chairperson, Jennifer Earl.
I'm
is that
sorry,
correct?
yes, I am the
That's-
chairperson, Jennifer Earl.
All right. Thank you for attending the meeting, and thank you for chairing that very, very important oversight committee.
You're welcome.
And you meet one more time this year?
We meet twice a year, yes. We meet close to January 1st and then in the summertime.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any questions? Okay. With that, we'll move on to the intergovernmental transfer of public funds agreement presentation.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. At this time, I'd like to go over the program. IGT was basically, it stipulates, it's called intergovernmental transfers. The reason we want to bring this in front of you is really to give you a refresher of the program and what we're doing. It is an ambulance fund program for reimbursement for Medi-Cal expenditures. What you're seeing is coming up here shortly is a transfer to the Department of Healthcare Services for about $2.3 million. So what that does is allow them to turn around, take those funds, match them with federal funds, and transfer it back to us. It's basically, the overall program itself is, it started back in 2006. We actually got involved back in about 2015 with the program itself. The essence of the program is to reimburse for unrealized costs or revenues that were lost through the Medi-Cal program. What that means basically is Medi-Cal itself will really only pay about $150 per trip on average. The revenue that we're losing out, because we actually bill for these programs, is about $1,200. So you can see the good sides difference between the two. I do have a handout though that I'll give to you after this, so you can see some of the history as well. So the program, in essence, basically the step process that we go through is, the first one is a cost of service allocation. So really what they're looking at is what is the cost for you to actually perform those services. So we could go through that exercise. And it kind of ties back into our GEMT program, where we come into that dollar figure. So you're estimating around $900 it costs as a cost just to perform that service. So that's the first step. The second step is letter of interest. So a letter on a city letterhead from the fire chief will be produced and sent out to the DHCS, which again is Department of Healthcare Services, showing that we are interested in doing the program again for the next year. And then you have another document. The next one would be submission of proposed plan. This is where the contracts and things start to come into play.
Do we have anything that you're looking at, or are we going to get it in the next?
I'm going to hand it to you. Let me hand it to you now.
Oh, gotcha, okay. Okay.
So the next steps that you do is basically approval of the documents. So the intergovernmental transfer agreement, and there's two agreements. So one is with the healthcare provider itself. So in this Fresno County, the provider here is actually Anthem Blue Cross and Calviva. So you have an agreement with them, and you also have an agreement with Healthcare Services, Department of Healthcare Services. So those two were executed will allow us to move on to the forward and transfer these funds. Okay? So the amount that's actually calculated is actually determined by the Department of Healthcare Services. So they see the number of trips that you produced and what that rate of lost cost is, and they give you a dollar amount. So in addition to that, they'll also charge a 20% admin fee. So again, what we're estimating, what we're transferring for this coming up within this week was about $2.3 million, but we're projected to see a net return of most likely about 1.6. Okay?
So
Now-
2.3 is the amount that the city gets in reimbursement for that
No, 2.3 is
$750
actually
gap?
2.3 is actually what is being transferred. So we'll get that money back plus an additional. So the additional between the two is about 1.6.
Okay, and is Calviva, is that
It's
Medicaid.
Medi-Cal. It's a program of Medi-Cal. I mean, they have different components, but they do provide that service within
and
Fresno
what's the
County.
source of funding for Medi-Cal? Is that federal or is that state?
It's actually both. So the programs actually, what's happening is when we transfer that money that we received, and what you have to do is take the revenue that you received from a Medi-Cal program, transfer it back to them, and they turn around and match it with federal funds and send it back to you.
So you pay them and they send you more money in return?
That's correct.
And on what order of do they send you more money in return? Like how much more?
It's
You send them $1, how much you get back?
usually close to $2.
So you get double your money back.
Pretty close, yes. I mean, there is an admin fee that adjusts that, but it's pretty close for dollars.
Is that schedule published every year, or is that like a contract, a 3-year contract, or how do we know how much we're gonna get back when we send them that dollar?
We have to execute the agreements ahead of time. Yeah, so we'll receive a letter and telling us the dollar amount.
And is that based on the availability of the funds in Calviva? Is that based on the federal government, how much they wanna fund
It can.
Medi-Cal
It depends on who's actually participating in the program, what's available, so that amount can change. So usually they'll fund up to 100% of what you're transferring to them, but that amount can vary through the years. So far, it's been about 100% the whole time.
And that's once a year.
That's once a year.
So, Isaac, I have a question.
Sure.
What year did you said, when did it start? Because I know,
The program, it actually started in 2006. We got involved in back in 2015.
and is there any restrictions when we receive that money?
There is. The net difference between what's transferred and actually what's returned, that amount has to be used for healthcare services.
Cool, okay.
So in our essence, what we do is we utilize it for the ambulance fund itself, the expenditures that are there.
So when we created the agency to get the funding to participate, did we set up a policy mechanism in order to find out what we classified as a need for health, or do we just, do we have a, is there a
So we
structured
have
plan?
we have a
Is there
fund
a-
itself, the ambulance fund, which is an enterprise fund.
Mhm.
It has to go back into that fund. That's where the revenues are pulled from.
But do we as a council, or has the staff, city staff, have they created a policy mechanism as to what we could adhere to, and maybe in the future, think about what we're,
So to
where we're gonna be
encumber those
placing?
types of
Yeah,
expenses
Yeah.
that
So-
could be used on.
Yeah, so I think what Isaac is sharing is that the amount that we have to use towards healthcare services, that is the only restricted amount, and the rest is discretionary within the fund. So, and the restricted amount is used to provide the ambulance service itself.
correct. But what I'm asking is, as a staff, and I appreciate that we got this,
Mhm.
but do we understand, or do we have a policy mechanism so we could understand where we could structure some of the money that has restrictions and the other money? Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, you mean the
Yeah.
difference between
So,
how we
so do we
utilize the
have
fund.
one, or are we gonna look at making one?
We could look into it during the budget
That'd be
process
good.
and how
That'd
this
be
money
good, so
comes
that we
through.
can understand
And
where
I
we
think
could actually earmark it, where we
Yeah.
could earmark it.
I think when we start doing the budget process, we can
Yeah.
talk about how this structure works and we can see the dollars
be
and how
really
it
good.
flows.
How much is encumbered? Of that $1 we send and of the $2 that comes back, how much is encumbered towards health-related expenditures?
Whatever the net difference between the payment is. So again, we're projecting about 1.6 to be the net difference.
So of that $2, 160 has to be paid for, go towards health-related reasons, and 40 cents or 20% can be used towards any other expenditure in the general fund.
Well, think of it this sense. If you're sending up $2, you most likely get around another 1.8 on top of that, however that difference
you're getting
is. So it's
380.
that difference. So
Okay.
it's not the money that you transfer per se, it's the difference in what you get back and what you send to them.
For all that money in the enterprise fund. So what's an enterprise fund?
An enterprise fund, in essence, is a mechanism where the city can actually make money. It's for profit. Because remember, the city itself is not a money generator. It's supposed to provide services to the public and be cost recovery. So an enterprise, in essence, will allow the city to generate funds.
Is an enterprise fund supposed to have a lot of money in it, or is it supposed to be just meet its expenses, or can it do both?
They could do both. I mean, in essence, what you do is set up a fiscal policy like we did for the general fund. So that's something that I did want to entertain for our enterprise funds, is create a good fiscal policy of what our reserves would be within those.
Because I noticed they're all, when you look at the city's financials, there are different enterprise funds, and they have, some of them are negative, some of them are zero, some of them are hugely positive, like the ambulance fund.
So it'd be good to go ahead and create that policy, but earmark some budgetary monies and maybe talk about a 5 to 10 year plan, and have it, as we talk about the fire department, as we talk about everybody else, we could earmark it and start policy, set our policy as to what we want to gear.
I just want to expand on Councilmember Trujillo's question about the policy. The fund is a discretionary money. It is one-time, funds, so it is a general policy that is used for things like capital projects and not ongoing operations for kind of one-time monies.
Because it's variable, the returns are variable.
Correct.
Is that right? So you can't count on necessarily getting this windfall like the city did in 17, 18, is that right?
So these programs can change. That's one of the things
The
you got to
programs
understand too.
themselves.
So one of the big things that happened before with a program similar to this was the GEMT. So a lot of cities went out there and actually budgeted on those dollars and
What
did
does that
not
stand
receive
for?
them. Ground emergency medical transport.
Okay.
So,
Sorry, go ahead.
I've got a question.
Sure.
So in layman's terms, what we're talking about is probably a structural building or something rather than employment or hires. That's what we're talking about, right? Those are the two different,
Capital or large
Yeah,
equipment
that's-
purchases, just not
Yeah.
ongoing.
yeah, budgetary.
One-time expenses.
Thank you, yes.
So that's a restriction that the city currently uses in practice, but it's not prescriptive. It could be used for payroll if you wanted, if times got tough. But it's not it's not restricted to that right now. That's just a best practice. Is that right? It's a benchmark?
That is a best practice, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good best practice for financial, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
What is the prognosis for the 1920 budget? how are we looking for funds from the IGT for that year? How's the upcoming cycle looking?
So each year it's been gaining. We've been getting a couple additional. I think last time it was about 1.4. This time we're looking at about 1.6. So it has been gaining. So basically, it's based off your cost factor. Remember, so as your costs increase, that unfunded reimbursed amount will actually change as well with it.
How is that factor? How much is that dependent on the price of insurance, health insurance? Because
For
it looks like
Medi-Cal,
there's
it
a
wouldn't- it
private
wouldn't
carrier
fluctuate.
and Medi-Cal. Is this mostly Medi-Cal?
This is all Medi-Cal. That's all this is.
You mentioned Anthem,
Wait,
That's
Anthem
Blue-
is a provider
Cross.
of Medi-Cal in our county.
so they're just a provider. They're just a house for this. They're just a structure.
Correct.
They're not the actual bank itself.
It actually does. The revenue just does come back from the state and Fed.
Okay. And is there any reason to believe that the money will be less this year or more? At this
In the
point?
coming year, no, not at
The
this
fact will
time.
be different.
Again, as long as our costs keep incurring and increasing, that amount should vary with that.
And by cost,
The only thing that will
that's
change
gauged
is if,
by ambulance rides, right?
yeah, the only thing that will change is if they choose not to fully fund. So that's the only variable. And so far, that hasn't been the case.
I know you want to bring this back up, and I know. Could we potentially, earmark some of that money for a couple of years for a fire department?
For the coming payment, this payment's actually been budgeted for this fiscal.
Okay, but for the future.
It is feasible, yes. Well, it's supposed to be earmarked for healthcare services. So really what you're doing in essence is, if you're paying off the structure within the ambulance fund, the ambulance payments that they go out to American, that allows the discretionary funds to flow back out now. So that's how you do it in that sense.
Yeah. So yes.
Thank you.
Okay,
Anybody
thank
else?
you.
Okay. All right, with that, we'll move on to the consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered routine. The complete consent calendar will be enacted by one motion by roll call vote. For purposes of discussion, any council member may have an item removed from the consent calendar and placed back on the regular agenda. The remainder of the consent calendar will be voted on. Would anyone like to take off any items on the consent calendar tonight? I would like to take off item C. That would be the check register. And I would make a motion to approve items 1A and B. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Robertson,
Aye.
Mayor President Franco,
Aye.
Councilmember Avila,
Aye.
Councilmember Guerra,
Aye.
Councilmember Trujillo.
Aye.
Okay, so I just have a couple of items tonight on page 12 of the check register. Check number 72302, Benny Baca, new HVAC unit for City Hall. Did we get bids for that?
Yes, we did. We got 3 bids.
We got 3 bids.
He was the lowest bidder.
Okay. Was that in one of our packets on consent or something recently,
No,
or
that one when it came to you, the dollar amount doesn't warrant coming to council.
what's the dollar amount that warrants it going to City Council?
But it's 15, after 15.
15,000 or above?
Mhm.
Okay, next one would be 72309, Collins and Shetler Planning Consulting, January 19th, 14,237.34. I'm assuming this is the independent contractor planner for the city. And this is my way of asking you how the search for the new city planner's going.
The search, the planning manager, development manager position that was approved by council at the last meeting should be starting advertising next week. So that will be moving forward. And the RFP for planning consultants that we have put out, those responses are due this Wednesday.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mhm.
Sure you'll keep us informed on that. Item 72318, Frusa EMS LLC ambulance billing. Since we're talking about ambulance tonight, is that the billing service that the city employs to actually bill the people who take the ambulance rides?
Yes, it is.
It is, okay. And that's a third-party billing service?
That's correct.
And are those bills, that $5,000 a month, is that pretty steady?
Yeah, it's around 3, 4, 5.
How do
around
they
there.
bill? Flat fee, or is it per ride?
It's per what they collect.
Per bill?
It's a rate. I think it's about 4.5% of whatever they collect.
So they're like a collection service?
Every billing service.
Please?
72297, which is ambulance again. Is that a
Mhm.
monthly charge?
That's a monthly charge.
Yeah, that's good. Good. That's good.
Which one was that?
So that
American Ambulance?
so in reality, the more
Yeah, 722.
so what I'm reading is that the more better we are check balance on our charges, the better funding we get at the back end, right? With what you're talking about in reimbursement?
So for the IGT you're talking about?
Yeah.
So the contract that we have for the American Ambulance is about 1.5. So it varies each year now.
Mhm.
So the one thing you want to keep in mind, as long as we have expenditures to cover that, then it allows our discretionary money to flow through.
Gotcha.
So yeah, the more we collect, the more that we can.
Yeah, so the more better we accounted for.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, with that, I would make a motion to approve. Item C, is there a second?
A second.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Robertson,
Aye.
Councilmember Avalos,
Aye.
Councilmember Guerra,
Aye.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Franco.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to public hearing, there's none scheduled, so we will move on to regular business. Item 2, discussion and direction regarding moving the April 2019 Community Cleanup Week drop-off location from within the City of Selma to the Waste Management Transfer Station at 5608 South Villa Avenue, Fresno. Report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Teresa Gallivan, City Manager. So at the council meeting of March 9th, Waste Management presented a request to move the location of the upcoming cleanup week drop-off from a site in Selma to the Waste Management transfer station at 5608 South Villa Avenue in Fresno. The city has a multi-year agreement with Waste Management through 2024. The agreement does stipulate that they will provide 2 community cleanup events a year in a location approved by the city. Moving the location of the drop-off may be done via a letter to Waste Management. Increasing the amount of the number of events or changing to a voucher system for drop-offs or any other changes would require an amendment to the agreement. Those were some of the things that were discussed at the last council meeting. Given the timing of the next community cleanup, which is about a month away, we recommend that you make a determination about the location of the April event, and if there are any other changes you want us to look at, that we can do those after that event happens, because we just don't really have the time right now to amend an agreement and successfully pull this event off in April. So they need some direction. Historically, the cleanup week drop-offs have been at 1675 Dockery Avenue in Selma, and for the October 2018 community cleanup event, Waste Management rented space at the Selma Unified School District Transportation Facility at 1100 Valley View. If the cleanup event drop-off location is moved to the transfer station on South Villa Avenue in Fresno, there will be additional hours of service available to City of Selma residents. And Waste Management has let us know that there would be more efficient drop-off coordination, meaning the lines would not be quite so long. While there is no additional cost to the city to change the location, city residents would be required to travel farther for the drop-off, but there would be increased hours of service. So staff recommends that council make a decision on whether to continue to have the event in the City of Selma, and the school district, I believe, is still available as an option, or if you would approve them moving it to the transfer station. And Waste Management is here this evening as well to talk to council. If you have any questions.
Thank you. So I'll refer the matter back to council. Does anyone have any questions or issues?
Well, I like to hear it from the Waste Management.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. We're still working with the city and with the council, of course, to get your approval to move this event. One of the things that I did mention was the location we're at the School District Transportation Facility Center is, with the rain that we've had most recently, the boxes are on dirt, and that does cause some sort of it's difficult. I mean, it's done, it's doable, but there is some traction with our boxes getting in and out of there. So that does cause a situation. Also, traffic flow could be another thing. I know this next community drop-off week is in the spring, so it is one of the most attended. So we are expecting more customers to come out. having it at our facility would allow for, again, the extended hours, plus traffic flow would be very easy, more sites to drop off, not having to sort material, and we have staff at our facility to be able to assist with those things. So we feel that it would be beneficial to have it, to move it, especially now that we have come up to just about a month away. We really do want to start announcing and getting the information out to our customers of the location change, and we feel this would be ample time to do that.
Thank you. Any additional questions?
Okay, you talk about,
I think I'm okay with that.
well, you talk about extended hours.
Yes.
Okay, is that weekend hours or during
It-
the week, or how's
It
that?
would be the daily hours. So
The daily hour
typically,
operations?
the daily hours operations here in Selma was typically 8 to 4. So by moving it to our location, it would be 6 to 6.
Oh, 6 to 6?
So it's-
Correct, is that right? Yes.
So the
6 in the-
hours are
So 6
extended.
in the morning till 6 in the
The hours would be
evening.
extended, correct.
Okay.
6 in the morning to 6 p.m. And on Saturday, we would have an extended hour too. It's typically 7 to
That's what,
noon.
that's what,
It'd be
that's
6
Monday,
to noon.
is that Monday through Saturday, or?
It's Monday through Saturday, that's correct. Saturday's hours are not 6 a.m., or is it 6 a.m. as well? 6 a.m. to 12 noon, that's what it is.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, it's
Saturday
not
will be the
all the
only,
way to 6
Saturday
o'clock
will be
in
the
the
only
evening.
difference from 6 to 12.
Correct, and
But
it's
the rest-
usually, it was usually
But
that way
the
anyway.
rest of the week, it'll be 6 to 6.
Correct.
One of the criticisms I heard, Liz, was at the last pickup, there wasn't anybody to help them. Is there people to help them when they come to
We
the
will have staff. We have our regular employees there working at our transfer station, so we may just bring in additional staff to be able to help with unloading. But, I think the main thing is going to be that they no longer have to separate according to the material. So it's just one dump. Just get it off the vehicle and just dump it in one location. So that's really going to help, having to move all over.
Let me ask another question.
Yes.
You know, how about an extra pickup? You know, because a lot of times people spring clean and they don't have enough on the
Yeah.
first round. You know, not to be, I'm being logical on this. you
No,
know.
absolutely. That is something that we would like to consider. As Teresa had mentioned, city manager had said that any change in what we currently have in the agreement would have to come back for further discussion. But that would be something that we would be willing to at least discuss and bring to the table for an additional incentive to have customers come out.
So we'll look to the city manager
Yeah.
Later.
and assistant city manager to discuss with waste management these modifications to the contract that we talked about, like the vouchers. They're listed here.
Correct.
It just sounds like right now with the pickup date
They
being
just need
less
the
than a month
location.
away,
It's hard.
can't really modify the contract
Yeah,
right
you-
now.
Yeah.
But it seems reasonable to move the location for the greater service. Does anyone from in the public like to comment on this? Anybody have any comment? Please come forward.
Jennifer Earl, 1327 Peach. I'm a little concerned about the distance for people in Selma to drive to Fresno to drop off. I understand the reasoning behind waste management, but I think more people will use it if it's here in Selma. And if it's not, then I think the Saturday particularly needs to be the 12 hours. Thank you.
Which it is.
Anyone else?
Danny Srimian, 2497 Country Club. Having property at the perimeter of the town, if it's a distance, I have a feeling they won't make it to Fresno. I think they'll come dump it maybe out in our area instead. So having it in Selma would probably be a more doable and easier for the residents of Selma.
You
Is
think
my
they would-
concern.
they w-
Well, I
they
don't.
would veer off
it's-
and go
I don't know how far it
east?
is to their plant, and I'm not trying to
It's
put a
it's
burr in their saddle, but
It's about, it's on the other side of Fowler, basically.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
that's
on the
okay.
other side of
Yeah,
town.
it's like
right off of
north
Clovis
Fowler.
Avenue.
well, then maybe the extended. I just know
Right
what
off of Clovis Avenue.
we've dealt with in the past. We've become the dumping ground, on Del Rey and whatever. So, yeah,
Listen.
it's hard.
No, I
You know
get
what
it.
I mean? It's a tough
But
deal.
they've done that when we had the pickup date.
Exactly.
wherever, so
Regardless.
Yeah.
unfortunately.
I'm just.
You're
I
throwing
was
it
just
out there as
making
a
a
potential
point.
Sure.
problem.
Exactly. I'm not
Gotcha.
trying to create any havoc. I'm just thinking out loud, those that are gonna go are gonna go. Those that aren't gonna go are gonna go over here and back up at night and dump it off.
And they
but
might do it anyway.
They might.
So-
Yeah.
They might. Anyways,
All right,
thank you.
thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Come on,
Anyone
I'll
else?
make the motion, dude.
Colleen Nelson, 1712 Oak Street. I'm on our beautification committee here in town. We've been discussing this at our last meeting. We pay for this service, and I think that if we're paying for this service, it should be within our town for the convenience of the people who live here. I don't think they should have to pack up their vehicles and drive outside of Fowler. We pay for it. I think we should have the service here.
Thank you.
Hi, Leslie Nelson, 2413 Country Club Lane. I also agree with keeping it in Selma, not only because of the fact that we do pay for it, but I also agree that there will be some more dumping than there already is. I think even having to drive that short distance will keep people from taking their items there. And we've worked really hard to try and keep things clean around town and keep our alleys a little bit cleaner, and I just think that we're going to start going backwards if we move it out of Selma. So I would really have you entertain the idea of keeping it in town. Thank you.
Thank you. So if the council does agree to move it, can we look again at this
Well, you know,
next year and,
I
or in
would-
6 months and see how the
would-
last
between
cleaning,
I,
see what
I
the
understand
results
what
were.
they're saying, Scott. What they're saying basically, you know, I get what they're saying, but really, in respects, is the time frame for us is too short of a window. So maybe go ahead and allow it here, and then maybe the next second dumping will be in their site, maybe.
Or,
Parameters. I want to, because really, I want to sit down and discuss some.
well, they've already said that it gets muddy there and it's not gonna be optimal conditions for people. So
I
if
didn't
it
wanna-
did change to Fowler this year, yeah, the problem's the location. Maybe if it doesn't work out, maybe a new location could be scouted by Waste
But she
Management.
did mention about health issues. You know, stuff's dumping on the property of the school property. You know.
Yeah, and it
So
was
th-
muddy and it's
yeah,
hard to
muddy.
get,
So
hard to
I
get
didn't,
traction there.
I didn't want to contaminate the ground soil for the school sites.
Right.
You know, we have to look at those issues as well.
Pastor?
Yes, 13838 South Locan, and I would like to also join on the wagon. That we'd like a site here in Selma. You know, out here in the country, I know we don't belong to the city, but we're still city, and it's kind of county. We're having a big problem seeing people dump on our streets, on Locan, especially tires and stuff of that nature, and sometimes people don't make it, and I guess they had the good intentions of going out there and dumping their stuff, and they just kind of dump it wherever they desire. So I would love to see a site here in Selma, and just for, I know that people are going to dump, and I know that countries, their favorite place to do it, and we're trying to set some cameras out there, our neighbors, but I would love to see a site here in Selma so we can see if we can get that problem resolved. Thank
your
you.
input.
Well, you know, Joe, can I address that issue right there? You know, my mother lives out in the country. You know, and there's people dump tires and everything.
Right. Mattresses.
And all we do is call the county, and the county comes and picks it up.
Yeah. No, we
No charge,
we
no
do
charge.
that. We
I'm
do
just
that.
letting you know that the
Right.
options out there for people in the rural communities that are being, I want to say, dump sites preyed upon. You call the county and they will come pick it up.
No, and we do that, and they're great about it. But
You know.
it's just a constant thing that's happening, and it's just we had a site here in Selma. I'm not sure if that would make it easier for people to go dump their stuff, and we have a great neighborhood where we have some great ranchers with us that pick it up, and we try to keep our area really clean. So I just like I said, I just want to see if it's just resolves the problem just a little bit. That'd be a great solution for us. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Liz Gomez again with Waste Management. One of the things I did hear was that customers saying they have to pack up their things and drive down, down the street. Well, they're packing up their material, their bulky items, and going to a location as it is. It's on Golden State. It's not having to go on the 99. It's
Right.
a safe, straight shot down to right out of Fowler, 3 minutes from there, approximately 8 miles. One of the other things, too, about the illegal dumping in Fresno County especially, Fresno County, we are also part of an ESAP agreement with them. It's exclusive service provider agreement with the county. They are changing that program as well, where they are now requiring each of the haulers to open up our facility so that the customers in the county can also come to our facility. As a matter of fact, the week before the Selma event, we're having a drop-off event for county customers. And so that information has gone out to our customers to let them know that they can bring their material the week before. Would be a full week, just like Selma's going to have. Actually, they don't get a Saturday. Selma gets the Saturday. But I think that, again, with the time that we have available now, it would be, be able to announce it and get enough information out. One of the things we'd like to announce as well is that we welcome customers with trailers. At the drop-off facility, they would fill up the boxes immediately with trailers. So we would encourage them to drive down to our facility. A lot of customers that did come in with trailers were already using our transfer station. So it didn't deter them from coming or didn't deter them from bringing material. They came anyway. They drove down to our facility and were able to dump dispose of their bulky items then. So we will announce that as well for this one, that, they're welcome to come down. I think that, again, with the time that we have left, the more customer education we get out to let them know, I think the better.
How do you track usage on this? How do you track the actual usage of people?
So what we're going to be doing then is when customers come in, we have their address, name, what they're bringing. They would come in and they would weigh. They would get weighed on a scale there, and then they would go in and they would dump all their material. Then would come back around and weigh it again. So that's how we keep the tonnage, so that we'll know, minus what was already the weight, and then when they came back on again, we would know what the tonnage is. We keep track of that information by material type, because there's different disposal costs for different type of material.
Come back and
we do. We have that data, and then we submit that to the city.
When it was at the schoolyard, and then
when it's going to be at our facility.
The
facility. we can compare the two, absolutely.
With the presumption being, if it's less or a lot less, that trash could be going somewhere else, and then maybe some sort of modification, some other site would need to be looked for potentially in the future.
Liz?
Yes.
Because of time permits, you're just asking for the location just to be changed for April.
Correct.
Not on a permanent basis.
Not on a permanent basis.
Okay.
Again, that would have to require, more
right.
time.
So this
But
would be a
it's for
trial
this.
run.
This is a
it's
trial.
For this.
Okay.
Correct. This is a trial, and we're going to see what type of turnout we get. What is our tonnage? Does it differ from when we had it actually here, when we had it at the school site? I just don't want to be, wandering from place to place.
Sure.
And the school, we haven't even approached them at this point because we were staying away because, again, the dirt where we would have our boxes has been pretty much saturated. So it's.
Okay.
It would,
Okay. Well, with that, I don't see a problem.
John has a quick question.
John,
Quick question?
you have a no?
No?
Okay. I'd like to make the motion to change the cleanup week drop-off location for April 2019 to the Fresno address, 5608 Southville Avenue.
Before we answer that, can I give my 3 minutes?
Hold on. See if there's a second. Is there a second?
I'll make a second on that
Okay.
motion.
Now we have a second. Now we can put it back to public comment.
Go ahead.
Speaking as Joe Frank Hernandez from 3202 Goldridge Street. Speaking as Joe Citizen with a lot of junk and a beat-up trailer, I can almost guarantee you a lot of the residents in Selma that have issues with garbage and washing machines and televisions and refrigerators or whatever the case may be would feel a lot better driving into Selma to drop off their stuff than to take that risk of going up Golden State with no trailer lights, no trailer plate, and the thought of just dumping the crap around the corner sounds a lot better than taking that risk going up Golden State past Fowler. Not everybody has a fancy hydraulic lift trailer that can dump it, and just those are my 2 cents on that topic.
It might keep them off the road in the first place. With that, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra?
Aye.
Councilmember Avalos?
Aye.
Councilmember Trujillo? Mayor Pro Tem Franco?
Aye.
Mayor Robertson?
Aye. Okay, with that, we'll move on to, And definitely let us know how that goes, please, in the numbers.
And what is the date of the drop-off?
It is the 22nd through the 22nd.
So we're not doing it Easter week when there's a break.
Gotcha.
Don't know when the actual break is for this school year, but we'll, yeah, no, it's not that week, yeah.
Okay, with that, we will move on to item 3, presentation and discussion regarding the fiscal year 2017-18 financial statements with independent auditors report. And I think I'm just kind of hearing things from the front here, from the dais. This is like 118 pages of really, really dense material. And if we could have more than 2 days to absorb this the next time, it'd be much appreciated.
Okay.
Okay, and maybe we could do a workshop on it in the future, because this is a real deep dive into the numbers. I mean, this is great detail. Well, I don't know. We've got our audit. Is this gentleman from
Yeah, I'm gonna
our
introduce
auditor,
him, yeah.
Sampson and Sampson? Okay. Would council want to discuss this tonight, or get a little more time? Maybe get a workshop on this to just to explain it a little more, and then approve it before we delve into this?
I just want to mention it was a council member's request to have the auditor come to present this document, which normally staff presents on an annual basis, often as consent.
Just as approve, yes.
And we very much appreciate you coming out. We know your time's valuable. You worked a full day, and you're still on the clock. So thank you very much for that.
Sure.
I think our position, if I may, is just that this is this is a lot of material. I mean, I did review it, and I reviewed it a couple of times, but I'd still like to discuss it in more detail and have a workshop, and and just have more explanation of it, so that we could have an intelligent discussion rather than just based on what we looked at.
Mr. Mayor, can we, and I apologize for interrupting here. I think with the, in regards to putting it on as an audit to come and do a presentation, I think maybe we misunderstood that we wanted probably to go through it and maybe do a workshop where we could actually go through it completely and maybe look at it. I mean,
Right.
we pay them.
Yeah.
Would it be feasible for you to come back in the future? I hate to ask you to.
Sure, do you know when the workshop would be?
It would probably be like a 5 o'clock or a 4 o'clock before a council meeting, so we
Yeah,
could really
that'd be
discuss
fine.
it.
That's fine.
Would the council be? You're from Fresno?
Yeah, Clovis.
Clovis, yeah, he's Clovis.
Would you be okay with coming to our next council meeting 2 weeks from today?
Sure.
April 1st at, say, 4 o'clock? Would that give us enough time for a workshop? 5 o'clock? What's council's preference?
Well,
4
it-
o'clock, because it's,
No,
Are you-
or we
you
could
have a
just do a
special meeting.
special
We have a
meeting.
special meeting.
Okay,
Because I don't want,
Would council rather have a
Yeah.
special meeting?
yep,
because the public will get
morning?
bored. I don't want the public to get bored.
a special meeting.
Legal have to be here for that?
We can have it before the council meeting if you don't.
The morning before the council
Or
meeting?
at 4 o'clock, if that's your preference. We can, in the past, I understand that we have done workshops about 4 o'clock. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, we run the
we-
gamut.
Or 5 o'clock.
We've done it in the morning
Right.
at 10 o'clock.
Because it's going to take a couple, maybe about 2.
Council's preference, morning or afternoon? Morning.
I'm morning. Well,
afternoon.
it depends on this gentleman here, his availability, and what day it is.
Well, I will adjust my schedule to make sure that I can be here, so
You know,
whenever you want to have the workshop.
Okay, so with that, it sounds like council preference is to have it on a morning for just convenience sake. Should we do it the same morning as a council meeting? Say 9 to 11?
Okay.
9 to 11, 2 weeks from today? Does that meet with your schedule, sir?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
April
Thank you very
1st.
much, and
I'll
we
move things around if I
apologize
have
for
to
the
make sure I'm
inconvenience.
here.
Is there,
That's April 1st.
it'll be more productive.
Mhm.
We'll have more incisive, I think, things to ask you
Okay.
at that workshop. And we'll have more time to review the items.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I was just made aware that we do have certain grant applications that require a received and approved by council audit. So will we still be meeting deadlines? I'm referring to the team here.
what's the deadline?
Oh, March 20, oh,
Okay, so
man.
that'd be April 1st, so we'd be a day after. How about if we had the workshop on March 29th? March 28th? Is that March 29th? Say that? March 31st? Are they usually end of the month? Usually not like the 26th or something. Okay, so
28th.
why don't we have a special meeting? What's the, say that again? Okay, so March 31st is a Sunday? So that'd be the grant deadline. So then it would automatically roll over to the next Monday, is that correct?
Usually.
So could we still have it on that Monday without breaking the deadline?
Yeah.
So, okay, so Thursday, that would be what, 12, like what's the date?
28.
28th. So
Could do Thursday.
Thursday, March 28th, from 9 to 11, we'll have a workshop to consider the financial statement
Yeah.
with the independent auditor's report. Okay?
Okay, very good.
Thanks very much for
We will
coming
see
out.
you then.
All right, looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Apologies for the inconvenience. With
Thank
that,
you.
is there, do we need to make a motion, Jamie, to continue this? Thank you.
Thursday, March 28th from
9 to 11.
From 7 in the morning?
Okay.
Ooh, okay. That will move on to item number 4, consideration of the award of construction contract to Catch Environmental, Inc. for the police station project in the amount of $8,322,577.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Teresa Gallivan, City Manager. On January 22nd, we came to council and council directed staff to rebid the police station project without the PLA, the labor agreement, with, big difference, with the PLA, the labor agreement, since, as we discussed then, the city cannot terminate that agreement. And we were also directed to seek additional funding sources for the estimated increase in construction costs. And we went over the estimated increases in the construction costs that Vanner Construction provided for us. Vanner estimated that the total cost for the rebid would be an increase of between 3 to 10% above the originally estimated project costs. So that equated to a project coming in between 8.1 million to 8.7 million. And total project costs being anywhere from 9.2 to 9.8. So on March 14th, last Thursday, we received bids for a bid for the project. We did open it up to a broader base of construction companies. We, instead of a pre-qualified list, that was discussed with council on January 22nd, excuse me. And the reason we did that was with the hopes that we would have more competition and receive more bids in the rebidding process. We did receive one bid, and that came in, that base bid did come in within the amount that we had discussed on January 22nd. So the base bid came in within the estimated increased costs that were projected by Vanner. The bid came in at 7.9, that base bid. The staff looked at the alternates that were chosen and listed in the bidding process and recommends 2 alternates that we add to the base bid for your consideration, and that is the community room at $182,000 and alternate number 5, the covered sally port at $142,000. So that's an additional $325,577 to the base bid. Now, we're recommending those items now, as these alternates would be cost prohibitive to add them later. They are part of the structure of the building, and they add a cost of approximately 4%, a 4% increase to the base bid. So made sense to go ahead and do those projects, recommend moving forward with those projects now.
So we do have a responsive bid within the revised estimate that we had shared with council on January 22nd. And therefore, we are recommending awarding the contract with the base bid and alternate number 1, the community room, and alternate number 5, the Sally Port. Any remaining alternates could be considered in the future as separate projects. As I mentioned before, we had initially $8 million allocated for this project, and on January 22nd, we knew that we discussed increasing the budget. And again, we're given direction to seek alternate sources of funding. And we have been working on that. In fact, several council members, Mayor Pro Tem and I, we've met with folks. So we are working on those other funding sources. Also, part of the funding that we originally received was for a $4 million voter-approved bond revenue generation. And we spoke with our bond counsel today, the assistant city manager and I, and got a little more clarification on the legal requirements of the bond, because initially we had an understanding that within 3 years that this money needed to be expended. And actually, in speaking with bond counsel, while that is a benchmark, we do, what really matters to the IRS and our bond counsel's advice was that we show we are making reasonable continued progress. So I want to add clarification that that is a benchmark. Indeed, it is. And that's why we have that in your staff report. But to go a little further, reasonable progress must be continued to be
So
shown.
just to clarify,
Yeah.
City Manager, is I'm gonna take this out of the financial analysis that we received. As part of the bond's legal requirements, those funds must be spent within 3 years from the issuance date. That's not exactly the way it is.
Yeah, you can remove must, but showing reasonable progress was clearly an indicator that we, not be sitting on this, that we be making progress and good faith effort on moving this forward.
So this is not something that should move the project forward in and of itself. This timeline of 3 years should not impel the city council to approve this just because, hey, we've got to get this done because the IRS is going to be breathing down our necks.
Right, in and
Okay.
of itself, that is not
So we can discount that.
the
Thank
only
you.
factor you should weigh in on. But the fact that we do need to make progress, that we have a responsive bid within the revised estimate of the budget that we discussed. So, that was a revised budget that we talked about and that council gave us direction unanimously to seek funding for. The additional funding we would need to move forward with this project. And so we have started that process of asking for the additional funds. And I'll just finish up a little further, and also Jerry with Vanner Construction and Isaac are here to answer any questions about the financial analysis. But going on a little further into our staff report, the total construction cost then with the contingency added in, so the base bid with the alternates is $8.3 million, and the total construction cost with a 5% contingency, this is on page 2 of your staff report, is $8,738,706. Again, this is under the maximum estimate that Vanner presented on January 22nd. It is $8,494 less than what the maximum we discussed was. Now, adding in additional
I don't mean to interrupt you, City
Yeah.
Manager, I apologize. But that's really not the way it is. Vanier told us, our project manager, Mr. Avalos, told us that we needed to add, from my recollection, we needed to add an increased factor for the amount of time it had been since we did our first bid of like 3%.
3 to 10%.
I recall 3.
3
I
to
don't recall
10%
the
was in the staff
10.
report and the presentation.
But that was of the $6.5 million that they value engineered the first time. That was not the full amount. The amount that you're giving us is the amount with the PLA, with the project labor agreement.
I'm taking
with
it
that
directly
overlay.
from the discussion we had at the last meeting, and I mean, just to clarify.
You gave us $8 million? You gave us $8 million as an estimate? Correct. You gave us 6.5. That's why we had the first value engineering. Thank you. So that's my understanding. So I think if we just differentiated just
Okay.
for argument's sake or for
No.
clarification, there's a difference
Yes.
between a non-PLA amount to bid this out, and there's a difference between a PLA, the burden that the PLA would put on it.
Yes, that is.
That's
we-
just what I'm trying to distinguish. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, to kind of go back. In the last report, we gave options with a PLA, without the PLA, and with a modular in order to come to the council direction to go back out to bid and with the PLA. And we had estimates for those options. And so I'm just
I do recall that.
refreshing
Yeah, and I
all
remember
that.
the joisted masonry would have been half or something, but for the PLA,
Right.
but for the additional costs resulting from the project labor agreement. Okay.
So in any case, though, when we get down to adding in the architectural engineering, the security, IT, and the contingency, we do come to a total project cost, when you add other project costs beyond the base bid and the contingency and the alternates, of 10.3 million, which is $461,346 more than, we had previously discussed in the staff report on the 22nd under that one option that we choose to move forward under.
I'm sorry, is that architectural and engineering, has that been expended already, or is that the additional for the architectural costs?
It's factoring it in, because remember, the architecture contract actually is based off.
Some of that's already been taken out, right?
Well, some of it has been taken out, that has been factored into these numbers. And it also factors in the increase of the cost of
What
the
does
project.
that mean, factored into these numbers?
So you have an original base budget of what the architecture, the contract itself was about, we're estimating about $536,000. So it's factoring in what we've already paid so far, and it's also factoring in the cost and increase.
So that's net or
because
gross? That's net of what's already been paid in so far, or is that gross?
Gross.
Including what's been paid in so far?
It's factoring, it's reducing the cost of what's already been paid, yes.
Oh.
So it's netting out.
So it's a net, gotcha, so it's additional,
Because there's gonna be an increase, because remember, the contract
Right.
itself
right?
is the contract
Let's
itself
get
is
this right.
based on.
Net is is this 531 additional, or is it the total including what's already been paid for architect's fees?
It's total,
Including what's already been paid?
that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
It's gross.
Thanks for that clarification.
So
Appreciate
it's
it.
reducing what's paid already, and it's factoring what the cost is gonna increase.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
we've accounted for both, got it, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, and then, so as you go down the page 2 of the staff report, we do have a variance of 3 million total, 15,582, but we had accounted for and discussed that, about 2.6 million of that at our last, in our last staff report. So we thought the variance, we anticipated and expected the variance to be a maximum of 2.6 million, and it is 3. So we do have a $215,000, $582 increase from the maximum scenario we were looking at on January 22nd, and that is about a 7% increase. So that, just to kind of put it in perspective of where we were when we talked on January 22nd and why we're recommending that we are in the ballpark here with a responsive bid. And the funding for that, as I mentioned, we are seeking funding for that. And I spoke with Chriscom today about the funding. We already have talked to them and put out some requests for funding in the amount of 2.8 million. They fully anticipated once we received our bids that we would adjust that number, and I spoke with them today. They are prepared to adjust that number if council wants to move forward on this, so that we can accurately reflect the information now that we have hard numbers. Because before we were talking about estimates, we were talking about our best estimates. So, and I'd also like to point out that last time we spoke, we talked about other funding sources we could use if we didn't receive the grants. And there are a couple of funding sources that we're recommending as backup funding sources if we don't receive the grants. And that is the Ambulance Services Fund, which our Assistant City Manager has gone over with you about how that works more. So you're aware that they are discretionary funds. We take the amount that is restricted out, and we still have remaining funds to use as a one-time project that has been such a priority project for the city and for public safety. Other funds that can be used, Measure S, is a restricted revenue fund.
but this project does qualify, so our Assistant City Manager, Finance Director is recommending we use a small amount from there. And, again, I want to just share that our preference is obviously to do everything we can to secure grant funding to get this to move forward and have this earmarked as a backup. With that, I'd like to have Jerry and Isaac share a little bit more about the whole bidding process and the deliberations that the group went through, and if there are any questions.
Good evening, Jerry Avalos, Mayor and council members. If you have any questions, we'd love to answer them.
I've heard a lot from people in the city over the last couple of days since we got this bid. Is there any way you guys could sit down and let people from the city come forward and then be on call, if you would, if there are any questions?
Absolutely.
Is council okay with that? It seems like a lot of people are here for tonight's topic. If anybody has anything to say about this topic, please come forward now.
Good evening, council again. Frank Hernandez, 3202 Gold Ridge. I have a question that I guess I would direct at the city manager. Am I allowed to ask each councilman a particular question and have them answer my question? Or do you guys turn around and huddle and say, we can't answer that because of this? So can I stand up here and ask Mr. Trujillo, Councilman Trujillo? Every time there's a topic regarding cement, construction, expenditure, or whatever, on any other topic, you're quick to interject with questions and interest. And not once when the city manager was up here, explaining the cost and everything. And I would just like to ask your personal opinion. How do you feel? I've heard that you've sat on other councils. Should we move forward?
Just direct them to me and I'll direct it to the council member.
Perfect. I guess what I'd like to know, and I'm sure everybody here and out in YouTube land, where our councilmen stand on this. Not just sit there and say a vote and hear a yay and a nay.
Right.
Yeah.
We'd like to hear and know.
You want to let the councilman respond? I think he has a response.
Please.
I'm happy you asked that.
Good.
When I became a city council member, 3 months prior to that, I was already doing a due diligence in regards to our budget, in regards to our fiscal responsibilities. When I got elected and I got sworn in on December 11th, I came to a meeting where we had a closed session. There was 100 people here, and they were after somebody's head. As a council member, and I was a council member when I was 23 years old, I reestablished the police department as a kid. But I did it because I knew our community needed something. They didn't have a police department. They had a sheriff department. I was 23 years old, and all I thought about was kids running around the streets with no police department. They had part-time cops. Going back here, all I've been seeing is people come and raise the concern of our health, of our community, the safety of our community. This council was, when I looked at our due diligence in the past, I seen that somebody fed them some misinformation, which why we have the PLA. I respect our council that it was here in the past. That's why I said when I made a motion to put this bid out to bid was because I respectfully knew that this community, there's a bigger picture than just the little picture of the money. Because tomorrow morning, what's gonna resonate from having a department, a class act police department will resonate better officers, better safety. It'll make our community have more pride. You're asking me personally, this council is a new council. There's two newly elected officials, which we've never been in a council. I have, but we've never been here in Selma. So when you ask me, should it go? I'm 100% for it, even though I'm in construction and know a PLA is bad. But can you imagine us going through a lawsuit for another 5 more years and spending our money?
We've already gone through 3 years
And
and
that's just me.
800,000.
That's just me saying. And I am a small accountant that's been doing this for 23 years.
I'm hoping you guys are not going to kick me out with my 3 minutes.
So I want to answer this
Because,
question. If you ask me, should we do it? I'm 100% behind it, even though I understand there's problems. So,
You said you were for throwing it out for rebidding.
yes.
It went out the same way it went out 3 years ago with the PLA, and it came back costing us more.
It's inflation. Do you know that? Do you know the inflation regards right now? If you look at the industry right now, we had a newly elected president. Because of the newly elected president has done his job, there are more costs in construction, and we should honor that because tomorrow morning, when costs are higher, that
Okay.
means our economy is doing better.
I'd like Mr. Avalos to answer my question, if you don't mind. If I, or, I'm sorry, I'll ask the mayor to see.
I think, Frank, can you sit down and let somebody else talk just for a little bit? Just let someone else, I mean, I appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah,
You know what?
that's okay.
We're all gonna.
Is that okay, Frank?
What I envision this, Frank,
Okay.
Mr. Hernandez, is the public having their input and then us council members
Well,
listening and then discussing the topic, then weighing forth
I
on
think your
we come up
constituents
with.
should hear.
I completely agree,
I
but
think the
let's give
constituents and the
everybody
taxpayers.
a chance. Would anyone else like to stand up?
Good evening. Yolanda Torres, 2266 Mitchell Avenue. Okay, so, I mean, he just said it himself. He would continue to go along with this knowing there's problems. That's a problem. That's already a problem, what he just said. Since day one, this has been a fiasco. Nobody can get numbers right. Nobody can get a blueprint right. Nobody can do anything. When I came here a year ago asking, and granted it was different council, but still there were 3 of you on there that were on here now. When I came a year ago asking for help to pull from other measures to get officers on the street because our kids were getting killed, we were in a gang war. Our families were going through hell. And I was told we couldn't touch any of that money and only if it was an emergency. Lives were at stake and that was not an emergency. And you're telling me taking money now for this police department is considered an emergency? Measure S was set up for a certain thing. It needs to stay that way. The ambulance project was meant for a certain thing and to be used a certain way. It needs to be left alone. If we keep taking and pulling and putting here and putting there, we are never gonna get on track. Never gonna get on track. If we cannot build this police department with what money was allotted, then we need to scrap it and we need to wait until we either get a grant, like city manager just said, there may be grants coming in. Stop this nonsense now. This is our taxpayers' money. We've been sitting here trying to figure out what's going on for the last 3 years, and we are still at ground zero. I don't understand, and I'm asking you to please do not vote to take money from these other measures. You need to make the right choice. We put you up there to make a right choice for this community, and I'm asking you to sit on it, wait, discuss more, figure out what else needs to be done, but do not sit here and make a decision knowing there's a problem. That you're gonna vote and there's still problems going on. I'm just telling you,
Thank
I'm
you, Ms.
sick and
Torres.
tired of being here asking for this community to get help and we're not getting it. But when other people want stuff, we're pulling from where we should be pulling from, and that's not right. Let's stick to what we need to do to get our finances back on track with this city. That's all I'm saying.
I very well remember this. I very
Yes,
well remember
you
you
do,
coming
yes.
up and I asked for more and I was pretty much banging my head on the dais asking for more money, for more officers on the street.
Exactly.
And we were told, no, it's like a luxury home. You know, it'd be like a luxury to put that money. You have to get it out of the reserve. Now we're finding out there's more money in the ambulance fund, so we'll have to
Exactly.
explore that more. But thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to come up and be heard on this important topic?
Joe Alvarez, 13838 South Locan. I think the citizens voted and their voice were heard. Their votes were placed on you guys to go forward with this project. That vote was to build the police station, and that vote was, and I know the problems they're talking about, but it's not problems to what they're referring to. We're getting out of the context. of what we're talking about here. We gotta build that police station one way or the other. We gotta go forward with this because that's what the citizens of Selma wanted, and that's what they voted for. So I'd say you guys gotta do what you guys gotta do to hear the voice of the citizens of Selma and go forward with this project. And I think it needs to get done. So I think that you guys can go forward with this, knowing that's what the citizens of Selma wanted you guys to go and do. So that's what I gotta say.
Thank you.
Rose Robertson, 1057 Mill Street. Actually a taxpayer in Selma. First of all, you guys, Selma deserves better. Councilmember Franco, you've said that. Selma deserves better. You actually admitted at the last council meeting that you were very sorry that you were misled on this PLA. Well, let's just see how sorry you are tonight. When the taxpayers allocated the additional $4 million to match the appropriation, that was Measure P. That passed by one vote, but that was the $4 million that was matched to the appropriation, not take out another additional $3 million to fulfill this police station. You guys need to stay in the amount that we voted for on Measure P by one vote. Measure O was passed by about 80-some%. That was much higher for Measure O in the Staley Stadium, the football stadium, and the school district. That was completely different. This is by one vote. It's not a, it's a no-brainer, guys. A no-brainer. You want to take out an additional $3 million from the taxpayer money because there's not enough money? Stick to the amount. This is ridiculous. At least give the citizens of Selma a couple more months. In July, we have Melissa Hurtado working on the correctional officer funding for hopefully some more additional money to allocate to other cities. Get the millions from there. Don't get it from our taxpayer money. You specifically stated that we need money not only for officers, we need code enforcement, we need some funding to put in a fund for incentivized developers or incentivize new business owners to come in, give them some incentivize. You just want to go put it all in another building. Don't follow former council, what they were doing. They were just mishandling this money. Do not do this. This is ridiculous. This is going to be a 2020 election. That's for sure. That's for damn sure.
Anyone else like to be heard on this?
Teresa Salas, 3221 Lee Street, Selma. 3 years ago, you had this all in front of you, and you voted for it. You voted for the PLA, and then when it came back, and it was too much money all of a sudden, and you guys didn't want to do that, then you balked at the whole idea that you had already approved. Granted, you two weren't there, but that idea had been approved from the get-go. Whatever box of rocks they sold you, you bought it. And that was the bottom line. You should have done it 3 years ago when you approved it. You guys took a step back. 3 years is costing you $3 million because you didn't act when you should have. Yes, one vote, but it was one vote. They got the money that they needed. They got the appropriation, they got the grant money, and it should have been done with the money that you had. It could have been done with the money that you had 3 years ago, but you all stopped dead in your tracks. I understand the community being upset because it's going to cost $3 million more, and you're trying to take it out of this money and that money, and hopefully grant money may come in. But waiting another week, another month, another year, it's only going to cost you more money. Get it done, and get it done now. That police department is a shambles, and it's an embarrassment to the state of California. It's terrible. I wouldn't work there if you paid me $1 million. It's that bad. You can't hear yourself think. I can, as short as I am, I can put my hand up and touch the ceiling. That's how bad it is. And then you wonder why your police officers don't want to stay when they can go to a state-of-the-art building in some other city. Get it done, and get it done now with the money that we have. And if we have to use some of our money, so be it. And hopefully in a month or two, you'll get your grant money. But let's get started on this now before it costs us more money. Thank you.
Joel Fedor, 2021 Hillcrest Street. Where's Chuck? Riojas, our PLA guy. Hey, Jerry. He's kind of absent, the one that kind of got us into this whole thing that we all voted on, or you all voted on. I want to see a station built. I really do. I'd love to get all emotional about it, but I'm too damn tired. Okay, but not this way. It can be done cheaper. I'm really ashamed at every one of you guys up there for rolling up like little pill bugs and pussing out in face of the union. Did we entertain or look at what it's going to take to fight the union, to get out of the PLA? Did we really look at it? Did you? Oh, okay. Did we really look at it? Hey, did we look at what Corcoran did? I think they scrapped their police station. They started over, and they got out of it. I don't know the details of the contract. Why are we spending my money, our money, kind of recklessly? You know, why do we need a construction manager? A general contractor is sufficient. And if we don't trust the general contractor, we need somebody to babysit them, then we don't hire them. Plain and simple. So, anyway, I'm real embarrassed of y'all. Don't roll up. Don't lay down. Don't be a gelding. Be a stallion.
Thank you.
Nick Sahota, 2511 Logan Street. I just want to say, you know, we do need a police station. This city is way behind than compared to the other cities. But I like to say a few things that it could be done, handled better before, especially architects, engineering, 16, 17%. To me, as an engineer here, that's a too much cost. It should be handled when they started on it. They should have a budget on it. They should design per budget. They should not have gone over it. So somewhere, whatever happens, a bigger building we needed, so what? But it should be designed per what the money we had. So once again, you know, this is good. We should do it, and let's get it done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dan Reese. My address is 2044 Alton, and I do agree with the building the police department. But one of the other things that makes Selma different is the fact that it's the people that work within the city, and those are more important than a building. And the reason I say this is we got to look at it this way. I mean, I know that you want the building, and I'm behind for that. But the thing is the cost. The other thing is, the reason I'm up here is also for code enforcement. You guys have been lacking in code enforcement for a long period of time. You used to have 2 code enforcement officers. Now you're down to 1. My question is, what does he do? What does he do? And the reason I say that, he runs around and he does everybody else's calls when what he should be doing is trying to do code enforcement to enhance the city. And that's what the city needs, is to be brought back up to a condition where people are happy that their community is being lifted up. And so I think the community, if we look at it that way too, you'd be able to see the neighborhood value go up. You would be able to see the community happy the fact that things are being done in the neighborhood, not just money being spent in here and there because we want a project. But my heart is for code enforcement, so it can change your streets. It can change the things that we see that we don't like within the neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, with that, if there's no more public comment, we'll refer it back to the council. Frank, did you want to finish, or do you want to wait here what we have to say?
You're gonna find out what you think right now.
I mean, we're gonna make our comments.
You know, you guys gotta do the right thing.
Thank you. Councilman Trujillo, would you like to go first?
Well, looking at this item here, Scott, and I don't think our city council here had enough time to review it, dollar-wise, going back to council. I'd rather give it, there's no time sensitive. How many days we have on this? 30 days, am I correct?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you have 60 days within which to award the contract
Okay.
pursuant to
So
the
what's-
notice inviting bids.
Okay, what's 2 weeks?
2 weeks is only 14 days, sir.
It's, all right. 2 weeks won't make that much difference. Yeah, I'd rather have people think on this, as the council people think on this, take it home and think on this, because, it was given us kind of short time, in a short time basis, but and this way the council can review all the cost factors and everything, and it's, the statement was made, over 2 years, we've been dealing with this for over 2 years. Unfortunately, in the past, I will say, things, not what you see, roses are always pretty as you see, but sometimes it does happen, and sometimes you have to move forward and go and take care of business and then move on, And I understand, when the public voted to put a police station, and I understand, even though it won by one vote, but still democracy. That's part of democracy in this country, unfortunately, It's not what, we're here as leaders up here, and we have to sometimes go what the public wants. And how we address those issues what the public wants is a factor in itself, And I think due to the enlighten what is going on right now, I would recommend maybe our next council meeting to really take a hard vote on this.
Will we know if we get those grants by the next council meeting? When will we know if we get those, if that grant money is available?
We won't know until,
The budget comes out?
July.
Right.
Now it'd be July?
End of June or first of July.
So we won't really know,
With
if
the,
there's that additional 3 million to fund this until.
Yeah, and the sad thing about it, we won't know if we'll get it. If we don't
They
get it,
vote on the budget.
it's in the long run. Like that gentleman says, we have to move forward on building a police station. And and the cost keeps going up. As Teresa mentioned, the cost factor has gone up, and it's I mean it's in life, it's over 2 years, Scott. Where are we going to go in this?
City voted on the PLA exactly a year ago,
Yeah,
actually.
so I mean, where we going to go?
Thank you. Councilperson Kara.
Okay, well, bear with me, I have notes all over the place, and I'm probably just on 3 hours of sleep because I go over all this material, and I feel like I'm dreaming all these numbers and putting this stuff through my head so I can make sure I get things right. But when I ran for city council, I ran on public safety. I went door to door, and I talked to a lot of individuals, a lot of citizens, and I've talked to probably a lot of you that are sitting here. I said, and what I heard over and over from the citizens is they want to see more police officers on the streets, patrolling and keeping them safe. They also stated that they will not pay another dime of taxpayers' money to this new police station. The citizens were informed of this project costing $8 million. $4 million, which consists of the grant from the state, and $4 million, the voters approved the bond issued back in July of 2017. So far from the material that was given to us, it states we've spent over $740,031 to the architect, the engineer, and some related projects, which are not listed. We get the bid from cash that comes in at 8,300,022 and 577, which is over the amount of our project. We need to stay within our means. I attended a meeting at the city for Team Selma, where Chief Gardner stated they had 12 contractors coming out to the site to bid. What happened to the other bids? We got one bid. The proposal that is presented to us today is asking council to approve transferring 2.8 million from the ambulance fund and 215,582 from the Measure S fund. The voters did not get any information, nor did they approve transferring any additional taxpayers' monies to be allocated from the ambulance fund or the Measure S fund for this new police station. It is not the taxpayers' mistake, nor should they be blindsided for the poor management decisions by the administration on this project. I am the voice for the citizens, and it is not in the best interest of our citizens to make a $3 million decision on a 36-hour time frame. It is not only reckless, but not economical or practical for our city. So with that, I stand 100% with the citizens of Selma not to move forward with this proposal. As a matter of fact, I'd like to scrap the deal and start over.
Pro Tem. If you're gonna make comments, sir, come to the podium, be respectful. And we're not doing public comment right now,
Well,
Mayor
you
Pro
just
Tem.
asked me. Well, did you give me the opportunity to speak or not?
You had your opportunity to
Mr.
speak.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
you have concluded public comment at this time.
No public comment, we'll have
Thank
public
you.
comment later. Mayor Pro Tem.
You know, I get it's
At the appropriate time, come to the podium.
it's disappointing when things don't work out perfect. I wish life was perfect, you know, but life isn't perfect. You know, you can look at it, oh, we had $8 million and it's gonna cost us $3 million to get a $10 million police station. You can look at it that way. The bottom line is indecision is killing this community. That's the reason our sewer infrastructure is so bad. That's the reason we hadn't built a major, nice neighborhood in over 15 years in this neighborhood. That's the reason we haven't built a park for over 35 years. That's the reason these roads are terrible, because lack of indecision, we wait and wait until we have no options, until things cost a fraction of, we get a fraction of what we could afford if we just would have said, we should have did it. You know what? We went out twice, it came back basically the same price. We wanted to rebuild a fire station, started out at $2.5 million, then it turned into $5 million. We talked about a community center, that was quote, $15 million. These are things we need, and they aren't cheap, and just hemming and hawing about the price isn't right. I think we need to move forward with it. That's my personal opinion. I think we waited long enough. It hasn't been 2 weeks, it's been 3 years. So, and it didn't pass by one vote, it passed by 2/3 of the vote. And that's just the reality. And we have the money to do it now. We're gonna look not to use that and put that money.
Please.
No, we do have the
please,
money. We do have the money.
Let him speak.
We do have the money. Now, we don't wanna use that money, but we do have it. And so those are my opinion. And I'm sorry, I wish it would have been smooth, and I wish we got it for $8 million, I wish it had been 4 stories high. But that's not the reality where we're at. This town needs a police station, and we need to fill it with cops. And we gotta move forward. The cops don't fit in the ones we have now. It's a health hazard. So it's the chicken or the egg. We have to move forward, pure and simple.
Thank you. Councilman Trujillo, would you like to weigh in at this point?
Sure. I walk the streets too. And I talked to a lot of people also. A lot of their concerns were, do you know what happened in the last 2 to 3 years? Do you know the decisions that the city council made in the last 2 to 3 years cost us a lot of money? Do you know that in 2014 and 16, we spent $280,000 for our city attorney, our city manager that just stayed here and kicked back and got paid $280,000? Why weren't you, where were you guys at? Saying that we spent our money. They spent $280,000 spend $280,000 on our city manager to just kick back and be a public works or something. That is reckless spending. Decisions this council has made since 2014 to now is what we have, is what represents. It's like they say, you are what you are. I have done my due diligence. I'm sure they have. So I'm going to speak on my due diligence. I'm not here to insult people. I'm here to insult the decisions that have been made in this council. That's where we are at right now. When we decide that we want to build a department, the community needs to understand that we as a council have a bigger picture to look at. We have monies, we spend it. So tomorrow morning, when there's someone and there's something going on in this community, are we still going to blame the police department? I wanted to say this, and I want to say it clear, and I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm just going to tell you guys. When I started making these decisions and thinking I was going to run, I went and I spoke to people. A lot of people in this community told me they were scared to say this, and they said, why do we have a health foundation board and we're paying taxes to the foundation board when we don't have a hospital? Can you go, John, and remove the health foundation and make it a tax for our city police department, our public works department? What they were asking for is true representation. But did I bring it up? No, I did not. You want to know why? Because I want to work with our council together to make sure that we bring our council together to raise and build a department that's going to bring our chief of police, our police officers, our fire department. I actually walked and I met with every department head, and I met with our public works director, and he told me they're 8 man short. I met with the chief of police. He's 16 man short. His department has, you walk in there, it looks worse than the homeless people. And I hate to say this, but you know what? If that's what the community wants and they voted for it, at one point in time, we as a community are going to need to understand that we need our infrastructure fixed. We need a new police department. We need new fire departments. But at what cost? At what cost? As a business owner, I understand there's inflation. You can't. My mother-in-law used to tell me, don't drink beer on a wine budget, or don't drink wine on a beer budget. So you guys are trying to dictate to us, or to the council, or to the experts. See, one thing you don't do that I learned at 23 years old is you let the experts do their job. And I apologize, but if our experts, which is our city attorney and our city manager and our finance director, tells us we need, and this is what it costs, what are we going to get for $4 million? And I apologize. I'm not here for not moving this community. I want to move this community. There's a bigger picture, and I apologize. But the decisions this council has made since 2014 to now, and where we're at right now, I will say this: if we do not build this department, we are putting ourselves in some legal ramifications, and I want to make sure that I want you guys to know it's going to cost us more money than what you guys are dealing with. Thank you.
So, in terms of the legal ramifications, the way it was presented tonight was, and the summary of this is all about urgency, getting us to move tonight. The scare tactics tonight used were, these funds must be spent within 3 years for the bond legal requirements, the Measure P, and then we found out tonight that wasn't the case. When this first came up in 2016, there was all sorts of urgency. We had people standing up, we're on the council now, saying, build it now because it's going to collapse. A train is going to hit it, and there are problems with the department. No one disputes that there are problems with the department. We need a new police department, absolutely. And that's why the voters voted. But the reason Councilman Avalos and I voted against the police department initially is because it was going too fast. We hadn't thought it through. We definitely wanted to get that $4 million appropriation, but then that became another $4 million that we needed to get, and we didn't have it, so we needed to go tax the citizens for that through Measure P. I wasn't for it or against it. I just wanted to know more about it, and yet it just kept being crammed down our throats. Like, you have to do this. If you don't do it, you're against the police department. You really have to do it. And the POA themselves came out and said, put the brakes on. Let's take a look at this, let's get support. And really, in hindsight, if we would have taken more time, I think more of the citizens would have gotten on board, and I think the POA would have gotten on board, and I don't think we'd be in the mess we are at this point. But the citizens passed by a razor's fraction, by a thread, the Measure P to move that forward with this 75%. And then we got into this, well, now we got to go into design. It started at 14,000 square feet. Now it is down to 10,000 square feet. I know I saw this department one time. We had one presentation on the department at 5:30. Here's what the department's going to look like. Here's what the building's going to look like. That's all we saw. It was the baby of the administration and the folks who were in that administration, not the council. So we relied on our professionals, and look where it got us. To do our job correctly, councilman, you let me speak. I let you speak. Let me speak, please. We have to exercise our duty to provide oversight. That is our job, and anything less is a cop-out. Now, to get to where we are tonight, talking about this bid, you know, I'm astonished. I'm astonished to see this community room back in. When I thought we discussed it, and there was some debate, but it seemed like there was consensus that maybe a community room is not the best place, or a police station where rapists and murderers are taken is not the best place for a community room, for, you know, the Girl Scouts of America to have a meeting, or the Boy Scouts of America to have a meeting, because it's inappropriate. And now I see it back in the bid tonight. That's neither here nor there. That's my editorial. When Chuck Rojas came out from the construction trades, he was very compelling, along with our city manager, Perea, at that time. And we were sold on this project labor agreement as something that would provide for a local hire and apprenticeship. Mayor Pro Tem Franco said it beautifully when he said, we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. We thought it was going to be different. And if it would have been different, we wouldn't have voted on it. And I couldn't agree with you more. And you had a lot of courage to say that, Mayor Pro Tem. But now we're dealing with the price of that. So we got our first bid for $8 million with one bidder, $7.9 million. One bidder, only one bidder came out. I would actually question the legality of one bidder. What is bidding for? It is to have competition. If you don't have more than one bidder, how is that competitive in the first place? So, okay, it came in, it was way too much. We rejected the bid as a council. Mr. Rojas came back, we've all heard him. He said, give me one more chance. Give me one more chance. We just need to put this out with the PLA, and you will see a huge difference. And if there is not a big difference, I don't want you to have the PLA. I don't think it's right, but give me one more chance. And what did the council do? We made the business decision to extend that one more chance and go out to bid again. And the results of that came last week on Thursday, and guess what the results were? Exactly the same. One bid, but the price came in higher this time. So with that being said, I think it's time to get rid of this PLA. I think it's time to get back to basics, as Councilperson Guerra says, and to start over. And with that being said, I would make a motion tonight, not only to reject this bid, but to send a letter to the union saying we rescind the PLA, and then we go out to bid again in July when we know if we got those grants, and go from there. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Robertson.
Aye.
Councilmember Guerra.
Aye.
Councilmember Avalos.
I think we need more time on this, Scott. You know, honestly, I think we need more time.
So, this bid's too high. It's
I mean,
because of the PLA.
I think
We need to move forward on the right basis. I say we go out to bid again.
I understand what you're saying,
But we go out under
Scott.
the right circumstances,
But
under the right
I think we have to look
conditions.
at the legal aspects behind this with our council. You know, we do have a contract with, you know, with the PLA, and there's, you know, there might be some ramifications. We have to take a look, and I think, give us 2 weeks, and we can analyze this a lot better.
There's a motion, you need to vote, Jim. Yes or no?
So the thing is, in terms of the contractual issue, this was a contract that we signed that there wasn't mutual agreement on, because we did not know what we were getting ourselves into. So,
Let me-
there are definitely legal issues to be explored here, but that's why I'm bringing this out, so that we can get on the right footing, send the right letter to the trades, and move forward. Chuck Rojas, the Secretary Treasurer of the Trades Council himself, said that if that bid doesn't go well and it goes the same, you need to move on. And he would applaud that, and he would support us in that. That's what I'm responding to, Councilman Avalos, that it has been, like everyone says, 3 years, and it is time to move forward. But if we keep going out with the same conditions, we're gonna get the same results.
I understand what you're saying, I understand. But I need, clarification from that attorney over there, on these binding contracts that we agreed to.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I think it would be in the best interests of the city to further review the impact of the PLA and the options available to you. Certainly that could be done at your April 1st meeting, and that it's an option that's available to you. But I should also remind the council that you currently have a motion and a second, and we're in the midst of a vote. So I would respectfully suggest that you continue with the roll, and we find out what the disposition is on the motion. But an option available is to consider what may be available to the city with regard to the PLA at your next meeting. The motion that was offered by Mayor Robertson and seconded by Councilmember Guerra is to reject the bid of Catch Environmental and to rescind the project labor agreement. And we currently have 2 votes, and it was to you, Councilmember Avalos.
Falls on me, okay, no problem. I'm gonna, I have to analyze the situation all around. I need more, I'll be honest with you, Scott, I need more time legally on the legal counsel here. This is a very serious thing here. I don't wanna cost the city any more money than it has to, Scott.
I think this project,
I mean,
I
I
think
know
the-
it's,
I
I know
think
it's
the-
co-
the spiraling cost
I
of this
understand, I
project-
understand where it's at.
I think the cost of
where,
this
I
project,
understand, hey, I understand where it's.
spiraling costs outweigh
I know.
the potential legal
Yeah,
costs.
but we don't know that, we don't know. And plus, if it ends up in court, let's say, the parameters ends in court, we could lose possibly the $4 million that was given to us because we have a time frame. That's another factor you have to look at in the
Yeah,
long-term
there-
situation.
there is
Am I correct, legal counsel down there?
Because we are,
We just need to make reasonable progress.
I don't know all the strings attached to the money that was approved through the bond, but it is my understanding that it is you have to spend it within a 3-year period of time. So that if it was approved in July of 2017, that takes us to July 2020. And I believe that if this project gets underway, that money would likely be spent prior to July 2020.
that's right.
And I think we can still make compliance. Of course, I would defer to staff, to the assistant city manager, and to the gentleman from Vanner to opine whether, at what point the project could incur that $3 million, or $4 million, if you will.
I don't think that's what we heard tonight, council. I think what we heard from the city manager, with all due respect, is that reasonable progress needed to be made on that $4 million, which even if that were not the case, there's 16 months still to go until July of 2020. So there is time. I'm not proposing to sit on our haunches. We gave the Building Trades Council every opportunity, Councilman.
Oh, no,
and
I know-
he said
I know,
at the
Scott.
at several meetings ago, if it doesn't work out, move on.
Yeah,
And
but
that's what
see-
I'm simply that's what I'm proposing to do tonight, is to move on and to go out to bid and let everybody bid on the project and get these and see what the costs are. Because remember what the cost for the joisted masonry, the driver on that was not the materials itself. It was like half. I think Corcoran did a joisted masonry project. it was the PLA according to our project manager from Van Air.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, just, I'm sorry, just lost that thought. Oh, so in going back out to bid, I did want to share with the group that there is something called bidder's fatigue. So, I mean, there are just some ramifications to the discussion and which
We've had
direction
two
we
peop-
go.
With all, again.
No, I just wanted to share
I'm
that.
not being acrimonious, but we've
um,
had two people
if-
bid on it.
if-
How would they get fatigued? Maybe those two might get fatigued, but they, pardon my tone. They had two people bid on it and their bid was very high. So if they were fatigued, I dare say I wouldn't be all that upset that they would have fatigue.
Respectfully, I didn't mean them individually or personally or those folks that have bid, but I just pointing out that a bidding process, it's a considerable amount of work for an organization to submit a bid. They cost approximately, and Vanner Construction can speak to this, about $20,000 investment for a company to submit a bid. So repetitively going back out is something that they'll be looking at.
And pardon my response, but I mean, this bid seems to be $1.5 million to two million more because of the PLA. So 20,000, again, is a small percentage of that. It would be sacrificed not to have this overlay on the contract.
You know, and you're right, Scott. I mean, the cost has gone up. I understand that. But the other issue is the legal aspect. And all I'm asking is, let's look at it for 2 weeks and really think on this hard. And by then we'll get some clarification on that contract, what it says on the PLA. You know, really, what does it really say, and the parameters on the issue in it.
Are you voting to amend the motion and reject the bid?
No, I'm just voting to give more time to for the council to analyze the
Are
situation.
you voting to continue?
I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote not in favor of this.
So is that a no?
That's a no, Scott. That's the case. That's a no.
Councilmember Trujillo?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Franco?
No.
Okay. So,
I'd like to make a motion to take staff recommendations and accept the bid for the new police station with alternates, the community room and the Sally Port.
is there a second?
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Franco?
Aye.
Councilmember Trujillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Avalos?
Put me on the spot. It's all right. You know, I guess what it comes down to, the guys, the public voted one vote by one. They wanted a police station. I guess.
Are you voting to continue to study this more, like you were
I
just
wanted.
saying?
I
or are
wanted.
you
I
gonna
wanted
vote
to study more. I
approve
want to
this?
make actually make.
Okay, then say
If
no.
you want to continue and study it more, you say no. If
Is
you
there a
wanna-
motion after this? If there motion,
Well,
to
You
you
study-
make
can,
it.
you can make
You
it.
can make
Okay, I'll make a motion to study this and vote no on it. And study it, okay? Vote no and study it.
Hold on,
Wait.
just for clarification.
Yeah.
Are you offering a substitute motion to Mayor
I
Pro
want to
Tem?
do a substitute motion.
Okay, so next you would ask, your substitute motion is to continue this matter to April 1st, is that correct?
That's correct. So we can look at the legal aspects of this
I
contract.
understand. And so, Mr. Mayor, it would be appropriate at this time for you to ask if there is a second to the substitute motion.
Is there a second to the substitute motion? I'll make a second. I'll
Okay,
second that.
there's a second. So now what we'll do is we'll suspend the vote on Mayor Pro Tem Franco's motion, and we will now entertain the roll, unless there's any further discussion, on Councilmember Avilos's substitute motion, which is to continue this item to April 1.
Does council recommend that we have a closed session to consider the legal ramifications of rescinding this project waiver agreement?
Mr. Mayor, I will consult with the city manager on that very issue, and we'll come up with a recommendation between now and obviously the next posting of the agenda.
Because everyone is clear on where I stand. I would like to send a letter of rescission to the Trades Council rescinding the PLA. That is not the motion on the floor right now. The motion is a substitute motion to continue this so that we can vote on it again at the next meeting.
Right.
And study it more per Councilman Avalos. And I seconded it, so would you call the roll, please?
Excuse me, do I have an
Right.
opportunity to comment?
Are we
Actually,
discussing
if there's further discussion, you can.
I just had
have-
one comment.
Go ahead.
You know, I don't want the public to think that we haven't talked about this PLA in length in our closed sessions and the position
Mr.
that
Mayor,
we put
Mr. Mayor, if I
ourselves
may,
into.
I would just ask all members of the council to be
Okay.
very cautious when
Well-
discussing what occurs in closed session.
I'm just saying, we discussed
Thank you.
this topic that we need all of a sudden more time to discuss. It's not like we didn't just say, oh, we'll just wait until the next bid come out and then start considering it again. We have been discussing it throughout the whole time. That was the whole time between the first bid and the second bid. So if Councilmember Avalos needs more time, I don't see what facts are gonna change over the last year. That's just my comment. I don't want the community to think that we haven't been aware of the situation and we're not aware of our, the situation that we're in.
I'd like to make a comment. I mean, I understand what Pro Tem Louis Franco is stating, but again, there are two new council members up here that didn't have anything to do with that PLA. So you have to understand that we have to be brought up to speed, and this is a lot to intake. So in order for us to make the correct decision, we need time, and that's what we're asking. So we don't want the citizens to think that we're not doing our job, our due diligence, and looking over the material, because we're talking about a $3 million taxpayer money decision. So we take that very, very serious. That's my comment.
Thank you. Call the roll.
What are we voting on?
Voting on the substitute.
What's currently in front of the council is a substitute motion by Councilmember Avalos, seconded by Mayor Robertson, to continue this matter to the next council meeting on April 1st. And should that meeting, I would respectfully suggest, should that meeting not occur for whatever reason, it would be continued to the next meeting of the city council. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Thank
That's
you
fair.
for that
At the
clarification.
same time, we want that, those questions answered.
Yes, sir. And as I said, I will work with the city manager to ensure that this is properly agendized for council's consideration.
Thank you.
Keep going.
So we have Councilmember Avalos,
Aye.
Mayor Robertson,
Aye.
Councilmember Guerra,
Aye.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Franco.
No.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to item 5, consideration of a resolution approving a request for a fee waiver for the Selma Chamber of Commerce's annual Raisin Festival event. Report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Teresa Gallivan, City Manager. We have received a request to waive fees associated with the annual Raisin Festival event, an annual event that is going on its 40th year. Yes, and the fees associated with the event include the special event permit, park rental, facility use rental, street closure permit, sound permit, and barricade fees, which total $2,417. And also the cost for staff time, which is $6,557, for a total waiver of $8,974. This event serves a public purpose by bringing in, by many residents enjoying it and bringing in individuals from neighboring communities. So people come into our community, they spend money here, they enjoy Selma, and again, it's been going on its 40th year. The chamber director is here to also tell you more about it and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager.
Tell your doctor joke again, Bob. I think we need it. There's a little bit of tension in this room.
I'm glad you got it, Scott. Not everybody did.
I'm still waiting to get it. No,
Oh,
that's
okay. We're excited about the fact that we're going to be celebrating 40 years of Raisin Festivals in the city of Selma. And it's not just a carnival, even though we have carnivals all 5 nights of our event. It is a community gathering. And we allow many of our nonprofits to be there selling items to help support their particular focus in the community, whether it's sports or girls and boys club or whomever are there. On Saturday, we also host a art exhibit, horticulture, photography, baking inside the senior center, in which local artists and landscapers or whomever grows anything can participate in that process. We also allow on Saturdays any of our chamber members who are in the have a business. They have a free day at the fair to hand out brochures and cards and whatever information they need to market their business in town. So it is totally a coming together of the community, and we just ask that as you know, have over the past 40 years, you have supported this as being a part of it. It's a Raisin Festival, Chamber of Commerce, and City of Selma. So we, again, ask that you provide us with this opportunity to provide this event in the downtown Selma. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Council.
Bob?
Yes.
I've had citizens ask me, is there any consideration of moving the carnival to Brettlinger? Because it gets very congested there at Lincoln Park, and they're just saying that'd be roomier if we moved it to Brettlinger. Would that ever be a possibility?
I'm not sure that Brettlinger is any larger than Lincoln Park. Is that, Shane, maybe you can answer that question, or Michael?
Oh, it's huge. Brettlinger's huge.
The biggest issue would be Little League and State Group are in season, so they usually have games to practice.
Oh.
You're talking about half the work.
Okay.
We could talk to them about one night and no games, but you're talking about Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Wednesday, Thursday, okay. So they have baseball or Little League games?
Yeah, both across the street and Little League.
Yeah. And another reason we do it at Lincoln Park is to focus on the downtown area of Selma.
Okay.
And so, I mean, we've had it, as you know, we've had it at Pioneer Village, and the focus on the Selma community was lost in that. Yeah, it's a great facility, and we love Pioneer Village, and we go there all the time. But for that event, it didn't draw people to the downtown community. And they do shop downtown during this event.
Yeah. Thank you, Bob.
Anyone?
I just want to make a motion.
Can I just say one thing? Last year when we talked, and I'm a huge supporter of the Raisin Festival, it gives
Always
people a great venue. It showcases Selma, gives people who otherwise might not be able to afford, going to an amusement park, place to go out with the kids, and it's a great thing for Selma. Last year we just talked about the carnival ride, that they keep quite a bit of the money. Has there ever been an exploration with them of them paying for some of the police costs? Because that seems like the hard cost here.
We
is
have
the
had
law
a
enforcement.
discussion with that. Of course, if that cost goes to them, what's going to happen for the families of Selma. The cost of that ticket's going to go up for them. So that's why we've kind of avoided that. Because they will then take a bigger amount of that ticket price from us.
Is that what they told you? They would take more of
Well, they will incur, yes, they will make sure that they get their
Is it a state secret, or
back.
how much does the chamber make on this event per year at the Raisin Festival, roughly?
Between the Raisin, the Carnival, and the
amusement park and the carnival.
And the Raisin royalty and the vendors, we probably make close to $25,000.
Is this your biggest fundraiser?
Yes. Well, I don't know this year. We'll wait and see. our crab feed was pretty good event this year, so.
That's a good problem to have.
Bob, I congratulate on that crab feed. That was a good event.
Thank you. The crab was good too.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Trujillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Guerra?
Aye.
Councilmember Avalos?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Franco?
Aye.
Mayor Robertson?
Aye.
Thank you very much. And just one additional, this year, because it is 40 years, we are inviting all of our past raisin royalty back, and we are moving our coronation inside to the Art Center. So we hope to make it a little more upscale.
Oh, that's nice.
So, and you're all welcome, okay?
We'll wait for our invitation. Thank you. Item 6, consideration of a professional services agreement with Pinnacle Training Systems LLC to provide health and wellness services to fire department personnel. Chief Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Over the last several months, we've had personnel working within a health and wellness committee with the overall objective of establishing a comprehensive health and wellness program for our department personnel. The agreement that you have before you is the culmination of that effort. Pinnacle Training Solutions will be helping us achieve that goal. It is a program that will consist of in-depth physicals that meet NFPA standards. They're quite a bit more in-depth than just your average physical. It also will provide us with educational type seminars, which we're actually hoping that we can get all of the city involved in, setting up the dates and letting everybody know. So once we have those dates established, we can have people from throughout the city attending. I actually have, if you do have any questions regarding the components of the program, I have Dr. Felicia Gomez is here from Pinnacle that would be able to answer any questions that you might have related to the more in-depth aspects of what they're going to be offering.
Okay.
If you'd like to come up, if anybody has any questions. Does anybody have any questions with regard to that?
Sure, come on.
Yeah, sure. Come, tell her to come up here. No, you know.
How long has this program been around?
We've been in business for 11 years.
And is it mainly for public safety?
We service all sorts of agencies and municipalities and entities, both private companies, cities, police departments, and fire departments throughout the state of California.
And how did you hear about Selma Fire Department?
I was actually contacted by Selma. I was actually in touch with the police chief several years ago just through conferences, workshops that I've given for the Fresno Madera Police Chiefs Workshop. And then I was contacted by the Selma Fire Department. I believe that they spoke with Fresno Fire, who we work with now in our 3rd year, and showed a lot of cost savings to their program or their department. And so I believe that that's how they got in touch with us.
I mean, it just stands to reason that, just looking at it from an economic standpoint, which is not the final and be-all, but looking at it that way, healthier personnel for the city don't make workers' comp claims. They work more, they're more productive. So, I mean, just looking at that, it pays for itself right there. But most importantly, from a humanistic standpoint, it keeps the brave men and women of the fire department healthy after going into these situations with buildings that have asbestos and things like that burning. It's such a dangerous job. I think it's really important for these brave folks to have these diagnostic and therapeutic services. Or
absolutely, yeah. We have data to demonstrate both a cost savings and also, as you pointed out, the humanitarian aspect of it. We have data showing our medical claims are down. We have data showing the morale of departments are increased, and that we also have data showing that our programs save lives and also provide first responders in particular the resources, the scientifically based expert resources on things like nutrition and fitness programs and that sort of thing.
Does council have any questions for the doctor
No,
tonight?
no, you know, that's good that you contacted this gentleman here in fire department. You know, you're talking about a workforce preventive health care.
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
key. That's key in life, you know, and eliminating, you know, hospital claims and all that.
Mhm.
You know, workman's comp claims, you know, if you have stress levels and everything, that's a key factor as well. You know, and
Absolutely.
so I understand where you're coming from. Hey, I get it. And I thank you for coming.
You're welcome. It's
Would
great.
anyone in the public like to have any comments or any questions? Okay. Thank you very much for coming out tonight.
Did you have any other questions for me?
Is this a year contract?
It's actually up to a 5-year contract,
What are we voting on tonight?
the full contract.
The 5-year?
Yes.
And it's paid for by the strike team grant? that's
Correct.
provided?
It's paid for, it's funds that we have in excess that we've received through our efforts, our firefighting efforts through the state. Once we've received our reimbursements and we've met the obligations within the city as far as overtime and other budgeted revenue, this is what is left over after that.
Okay. So it's up to 25,000. Is that based on usage then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
It'll never exceed
it will be a
25,000.
voluntary program. We'll be encouraging, obviously, involvement from all of our members. But that's why it's up to that amount.
Okay. So I see our captain and our fire marshal in the audience. I'm assuming that
Yes,
they're
actually,
here to support
Captain
this
Road did.
and-
Captain Road did a lot of work on facilitating this project.
Great. Thank you for that. Okay, thank you for your presentation.
Thanks.
Is there any more comment? Is there a motion?
No.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Aye.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Aye.
Councilmember Avalos,
Hi.
Mayor Pro Tem Franco,
Aye.
Mayor Robertson.
Aye. Okay, Mr. Yeah, do you want to mention it?
Just to members of the audience, I'm going to be excusing myself from the dais. I was made aware of a family emergency as I was walking into the door. Now that all the regular business has been concluded, I'm going to go with my inquire about that event. Thank you.
Take care. Good luck. All right, with that, we will move on to departmental reports. City Manager Gallivan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to let everybody know that we will be advertising for the recruitment of the planning and development manager, and you'll see that starting next week. So if you know of any qualified individuals that are interested, please encourage them to apply.
Where are you advertising?
That'll be on various association websites as well as newspaper, and HR had a few others that she was looking into.
Okay, great. Is that it for tonight? Okay, great. City Attorney?
How long do I have, Mr. Mayor? Just kidding. I have nothing, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
That
was
was
good.
good.
3 minutes.
That will, we'll move on to our finance director.
Just a quick update on the budget process. We are on track. We've had our preliminary meetings with all department heads and the budget committee. So we're moving forward and we look in good shape.
When's our next quarterly update?
Quarterly update, I can get that to you. I could have it for mid next month.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, Shane, Public Works Director.
Just a couple things real quick from Public Works. The ATP project behind Roosevelt, this new student drop-off is moving along very well.
That's the construction, taking out that like island there. Or that
Right,
inlet
making a
part.
new kind of a roundabout in there to drop kids off.
Is that gonna be a lot safer?
A lot safer. It's going to alleviate all the congestion out on Floral in front of the school.
Yeah.
Ringo Park
When will that be
restrooms.
ready? Shane, when will that be ready? When will it be done?
I'm not sure the completion date on it, but I can find out for you.
Thank
It was pushed about a week because of the weather.
The rains.
Okay.
Sorry, it's a two-phase project. They're doing the school portion right now. Floral will be done during the summer. So.
Okay, time for for the school year next year.
Correct, that way they don't interrupt you.
Got it, thank you.
One other thing, the new restroom for Ringo Park has been ordered, and the demo crew should be in within the next 2 or 3 weeks to start demo. And that's just a prefab building, so once the demo's done and the foundation's there, the utilities are there, it should be a pretty simple deal. Just bring it in, crane it, set it, hook up the utilities, and we should have a nice working restroom at Ringo Park.
Oh, that's great.
And one last thing, I want to thank the Smart Center and Boys and Girls Club. I worked in coalition with them on painting the wrought iron fence. We did the wrought iron work behind the back patio back there, and the fence around the park looked terrible. So me and my guys went in there, fixed all the broken slats, replaced slats, took care of all the graffiti, and then the Boys and Girls Club and the Smart Center came out on a weekend. I provided them with the paint materials, and they got volunteers to paint the fence. So
That's really nice.
I want to thank them for that.
That's great.
Thank you for that. It's great community involvement. That's what it's all about.
Work
getting
together,
the
make it
community
better.
involved.
That's
Work
right.
together, make it better.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Fire Chief Peterson?
Last week, we wrapped up our multi-agency training event that went on out at our facility. We had Kingsburg, Fresno County, and us out there. We had, ended up doing 3 days of burns. It was a long week, but very productive. And then the 1st of April, there'll be a small group of us headed to Nebraska to do the final inspection on the new engine. And that we're hoping, once that's done, there'll be some minor adjustments, some minor fixes, and we're hoping to have that in service the end of April or first part of May.
Will that
if all goes
replace
well.
an existing engine or supplement?
It
the
is.
exist-
It
new one?
replaces the engine that was involved in the
In the
accident.
accident at the
Yes.
fire last year, 2 years ago. Thank you. Is that it? Police Chief Garner?
Just want to call your attention to the report on page 148, specifically the personnel status report. If you notice that all the vacancies are now full, as of the last couple of weeks, we filled our remaining dispatch vacancy as well as our sworn officer vacancies, so we're at capacity for this year's budget, which is a good thing. In the next council meeting or two, you'll be meeting all of those new personnel here at the council meeting. And just to highlight, if you hadn't saw the crime information, we continue to trend in the right direction. 48% drop in crime over the last 2 weeks, 43% over the last month, which is good. I don't want to jinx it, but it's good. So that's a good thing. The officers are doing a tremendous job right now, and having some additional bodies now that we've filled all these vacancies has helped quite a bit. So that's it.
Thank you. Okay. Parks and Community Services?
Just 2 announcements real quick. I think everybody knows Wicked is a Broadway play is from LA. They'll be at the Soroyan Theater, but during their run at the Soroyan Theater, there's 2 actors coming down and doing a workshop here at the Selma Arts Center in the next couple weeks. So getting some good recognition and putting ourselves on the map again. And some good news from the president signed off the Land, Water, and Conservation Fund, which was out of service, and this is a great opportunity for parks, and that's how Schaefer Park was built years ago. So I'm glad to have that back on the books to give us a chance for some more grant funds.
What's our status of Prop 68, the park? How are we doing?
We're working on a park grant. It's due August 5th, and the per capita funds, which is about $200,000, which is guaranteed funds, should be released within the next month or 2 also.
Okay, thank you. Let's keep us posted. All right, with that, we'll move on to council reports. Councilman Trujillo.
I attended the Crab Feed Education Foundation, and I attended my first reading to the first graders at Jackson Elementary, which was last Friday. Was fun. That was exciting. So with that, I'd like to bring up some issues that I'd like to have the council maybe take into consideration. Maybe thinking about implementing, I know we had talked about it, Isaac, a financial policy to understand what our reserve levels will be in regards to different departments. That's one. The other one is, when I attended the last conference, I wrote these notes and I never brought them up, and I thought I'd bring it up today. It was a really good idea that we as a council would at one time or another meet with our planning department to give them an objective standard of our future development. And we should meet with our planning director so we could give them our objective of what we see and how we see our city growing in the next 5 to 10 years. I would like for us to discuss that if we could in the near future. Other than that, that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Do you mean, Councilman, do you mean planning commission, or do you mean the actual planner that the city's gonna be hiring?
I mean the planning department.
The planning
I'm
department?
sorry, the planning committee.
The commission?
The commission.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Planning commission,
Sorry about
okay.
that.
So, have a joint meeting with
Yeah.
the planning commission, discuss the issues, land use, and the goals and
The issues of
objectives?
where we would like to put our objectives for the next 5 to 10 years. So they understand what we're thinking and we could be all in sync.
You're talking about like a workshop, right?
Yeah, it would be good.
A workshop, educational,
Mhm.
okay.
Probably good timing, since we just went over the goals and
Mhm.
objectives. Great, thank you.
Okay, I attended the United Healthcare grand opening here in, a great event, amazing. And I'm glad Sarah's one of the board members on there with my wife as well, and all about preventive healthcare. That's great. It's popping all over. They're going to have quite a few in Fresno. They're going to have another one in Dinuba, I understand. And it's good. It's helping our communities that are our disadvantaged communities in our rural areas, helping them. It's a tool. It's all, and like that lady, well, she's gone already. It's all about preventive medicine and healthcare in our community. It's good. Keeps the cost down and everybody. It's good. And I also attended the SKF my meeting, and everything's going good. Trunk line McCall is on schedule.
When's that gonna be done?
Well, they say within well, they didn't give me exact date. It's actually way ahead of schedule. I've been talking to the boys. I go out and talk to those guys. They might think I'm a foreman out there or something.
Good, good.
But also, I'll be bringing back, if there's any rate increases for the city of Selma, I'll be bringing them back to the council earlier. That way, the public will have input, and I'll also be bringing SKF to the city council if there's going to be an increase and how much, what, and why, and reason behind that. Okay, that way the public of city of Selma will know if there's a cost factor going up, and they can weigh in on what's going on, and it's their tax dollars and they should know.
Can you let us know when that McCall
Yeah,
line's
oh
gonna
yeah,
be done?
I'll let
and
you know how
have the
soon
rate
McCall.
increases?
As soon as I get out there, talk to
Go
those
out there
guys
and talk to
again.
them.
But overall, I have and also attended yesterday at the church had an event, St. Joseph's Day. I attended that, and it was free. It was a free event for the community. Food free, drinks were free, entertainment was free, parade and everything. It went very well. It looked like maybe I'm gonna take a wild guess, maybe about over 2,000 people showed up. You know, it was quite a few people. Yeah, but it's good. You know what it is? I like the churches that when they get involved and they have their events in our community, because they're a part of our community, and I think it's good that they get involved with. Not only would they invite the other people outside their parishioners to come invite their festivities. Like a good example, it's coming up right now. Our Indian community going to have one in April, and they're inviting the public to come out and see their festivity going out. And it's well reserved, and my God, it's over 5,000 people easy, you know.
Big event.
And it's all about knowing the community, but also knowing your neighbors. You know, even though we may have different religions, different cultures, but in life we have the same belief. We always want peace and harmony in our community, and we believe in that very strongly. So, and it's good that we see events like that take place in our community. I like what I see, and it's good.
Thank you very
So
much
that's
for
all.
that. Councilperson Guerra?
Okay. I attended the girls' opening ceremonies for this girls' softball league. I also attended the new United Healthcare Center grand opening, which was very beautiful. I mean, they really did a 5-star facility. I also attended the ribbon cutting for Chicago Pizza, but I didn't get to stay very long and taste the pizza, but I'll get there. I had to leave and attended a luncheon for the California State Assembly, Ana Caballeros. Her meeting was very, very informative. It was a great meeting. It helped us with tools and direction for some more grants for our city. And then that evening, I attended King's Mortgage, St. Patty's 7th annual. Their St. Patrick event, which was really nice. And their sponsor this year was the firefighters or the association, right? So that's a great cause. And I'd like to also state a comment on, piggyback a little bit on John Trujillo, but I also requested a spreadsheet back in our first meeting in regards to all our projects that we have in the works. And I kind of like to get that project, if know where we are, because that gives us direction and to let us know exactly where from point A to point B, you know, and where we are. So I'd kind of like to, if we can, move forward on that.
Absolutely, and I have not forgotten. We have been putting things together, so
Okay.
we will be getting that to council.
Perfect.
Thank you.
That's it for
Thank
me.
you.
Thank you.
I would reiterate, that would be a really good tool to have that spreadsheet so we can see the status of these projects. Because we get asked all the time in the community about what's going on in the city. So I attended the King's Mortgage St. Patrick's Day to benefit the very worthy cause of the FFA. I attended the United Health ribbon cutting to celebrate the opening of their beautiful Selma location. I read to the EOC class at Eric White in Indianola. Really nice experience, great kids. I attended the ribbon cutting for Chicago Pizza. Again, had to cut it short without getting a slice because we had to get to the Latino Water Coalition meeting where State Senator Ana Caballero was introduced and made some very good comments. And we did get to ask questions. Councilman Trujillo asked a really good question about whether or not infrastructure could be funded along with the funds for the grants that they come out with the state. That was a good follow-up question. And then I asked about the opportunity zones. I think they're both, we've got to find out. We've got to follow up on that. I wanted to say thank you to Public Works for fixing that walk signal at McCall and Rose. Really appreciate that. Used it several times today, tested it out, worked great. And also in the paper today, there was an article in the Fresno Bee second page about CalPERS, the board. Got Isaac's attention on that one. They met to decide whether to boost investment earnings for the state employee pension system. So this is hugely important because they voted today, and I don't know how the vote came out, but they voted whether or not to increase their funds that they invest in private equity, in private companies, like in tech stocks and Microsoft. You wouldn't believe how conservative the investments at CalPERS, which it's the biggest pension plan in the world for all California public employees. And they've only been investing 8% in private equity companies. It's crazy. So when I went to the conference in Palm Springs with Assistant City Manager Moreno and Heather Credit from the Finance Department, they had the director of CalPERS there doing one of their talks, and this was a main topic. Like, we got to figure out how to hit our percentage that we need to hit, which is 7%. They need to make a 7% return. It seems pretty run of the mill. They never hit it, and what happens is the city has to fund it, and the employees have to fund that shortfall. So it's really important that they meet their investment objectives. So I think that's a really good sign. They've got a new COO who's actually a little bit more forward-looking and looking to invest more money to make more of a return. Because Selma, the unfunded pension, one of the appointments was with the actuary, and Selma's unfunded pension liability is $7 million, which sounds like a lot, but it's still 74% funded. So Selma is in no danger of being foreclosed right now or being shut down like I think Stockton was. And also, just on the horizon, the courts are looking at pensions to see if they can change the amounts that are that are being awarded, to see if that can change. And I think at that meeting, CalPERS said over and over, don't look to the courts. They're not gonna save you. However, they just issued a ruling on it, maybe not the complete pensions, but an aspect of the pension that they can alter. That could be coming in the future. So, all right. With that, we'll move back to oral communications. Is anyone like to weigh in for the final topic tonight? Please.
First of all, I want to thank all of you for supporting the ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings that the Chamber has had in the last 4 months. It's been a busy season, and your support and your attendance makes a lot of credit for those people who are doing them. I know that they appreciate you doing that. Secondly, we have another mixer coming up on Wednesday night. This is our annual mixer with Kingsford and Fowler. So we all invite you to that event. It's hosted at SKF, and it's actually hosted by Judy Pago and the Housing Connection in Kingsford, who's also a member of our chamber. So that will be a great event. It's an opportunity for us to mix with other communities to find out what's going on. Wednesday at 5. And then this month on the 28th, we will have our annual awards banquet at Spike and Rail. We're excited about that. We don't know who's getting those awards until Thursday. The nominations close. So on Friday, you will get an email about all of them but Citizen of the Year. We always keep that one a secret. But our MC for this year is going to be our own city manager, Teresa Gallivan, and we appreciate that, stepping up to the plate and lending us a hand. So it's a great event, and invite all of you there. Thank you.
You reminded me of something. I hate to compete with the chamber, but Second Chance has their bowling fundraiser this Wednesday from 6 to 8. So you could go from 5 to 6 and then go bowling at Freeway Lanes to raise funds. Thank you. Would anyone else like to make a comment before we adjourn? Okay, with that, is there a motion to adjourn? Oh, is someone else? Please. You want to step forward, please, ma'am?
I'm like Bob.
He's been there, done that.
Yeah, but we
That's
don't
why.
know you.
Just come up and identify yourself,
Yeah.
because he's already identified himself.
Yeah, we want to hear your full name, your married name.
Okay, so my name is Amanda Guerra, previously Amanda Montalongo, from Sanger, moved here to Selma, serviced the community here, also still servicing Sanger. But I just want to point out that, with Shane, I did want to just give him a quick highlight. Anytime, we are lines of business run into each other, Shane's always a big help. Anytime I need our transfer station swept through real quick, this guy's like, okay, go ahead and put in a work order and I'll call the city. They'll get it in there and they always take care of it. So I appreciate that. In regards to Mike as well, I placed a call to him today and he called me right back and he had to leave me a message and I had to call him back again. So we were kind of playing phone tag, but he got me the information that I needed. So I appreciate that. Somehow our businesses always kind of intertwine with each other and it's good because we're all able to work together and I appreciate that. So, working with the kids and getting them involved, it's teaching them, what the real world is like, in order to make money, you got to put your hands to work. So I think that's good. In regards to everybody else, I enjoy being involved in Rotary and making blankets and, doing things for kids and stuff like that. So I appreciate everybody's help and, you guys getting back in a timely manner and working with all of you. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything to say? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? We are adjourned.
Second.